Hello, grinders, and welcome to the morning grind. This is Dean Chabelson. Dean, once again, filling in for Stevie. You guys know this is Stevie's podcast. Stevie's busy knocking on his NASCAR content. Of course, if you want NASCAR content, you know where to get it here at RotoGrinders.com. That said, we are continuing our DFS personality series. And you may, if you're an old school RG guy, if you're an old school DFS guy, you may recognize that intro, of course, from On the Bump here at RotoGrinders, the RotoGrinders series on YouTube. I'm going to bring in the host of that, Canada's favorite son, former FanDuel Live final champion, Chris Lowery. Of course, you guys know him better as Pepsi7, Pepsi7. What's up, Pepsi?
I'm doing well, buddy. I'm doing well. Happy to be on here, and it's nice to see you again.
Yeah, it's nice to see you as well too. We're like real life friends. We became friends through DFS, and well, I know you about as well as anybody, I think, in the DFS world. The other day I had Pete Overzet on. That was an awesome, a fun interview as well. Somebody I didn't know, and I had a great time getting to know him. But I'm probably going to be asking a lot of questions that I don't necessarily know, but a lot of the viewers, of course. I say viewers because we're also on YouTube, and we should say on YouTube you're rocking the Canadian flag there in the background. You're rocking a pretty sweet beard as well. Now, it's not the quarantine beard that I was hoping for. I've seen pictures of. I know Devin, our producer here, he's got pictures of you from that's 4 months of no shaving, and your hair was all over the place. Maybe you'll put it up now. It's good stuff for sure. But I guess you found yourself a haircut and you got yourself a trimmer.
Yeah, we all went through hell, I think, for a few months, and a lot of us are still going through it, especially my fellow American friends. What a mess there. But yeah, I basically locked myself in my home for almost 3 months, I think, here, and I even shaved my beard several times. I don't know if D-Train's going to show the picture or not there, but I shaved a few times, actually. It still was looking like a caveman and all this hair. So more hair than I probably ever had in my life, but I was happy to get rid of it all there. But probably about 10 days or so, I got rid of it finally.
We'll get to it soon enough, Pepsi, obviously, but you were in the Philippines somewhat before or right before the whole quarantine thing hit, or right around that time. Did you have trouble getting back?
No, I mean, we'd all heard about what was going on in China, and, I was concerned, but like a lot of the other viruses that happened over the years, they weren't really a big player here in North America. So I was keeping an eye on things, wasn't overly concerned, but as it kept getting bigger and bigger and it started to spread a little bit, I thought, you know what, maybe it's time to go home early back to Canada, where we're a little more prepared than a country like the Philippines, is if a pandemic, say, hit. Still not expecting that. So it was late February, I think, that I came home, not wanting to come back in winter. The whole point was to be on a nice hot beach during the winter months here. But I came back early, and obviously happy I did, because, Canada was very prepared for it, and we've done a really good job handling it. So, I'm happy for that.
What's the day-to-day like right now? You're in around the Toronto suburban area, more or less?
Yeah, I'm just about 30 to 40 minutes north of Toronto.
And as far as are things opening up out there? I don't know much about Canada as far as what's going on quarantine-wise. I feel like you guys are doing fairly well, but I don't know.
Yeah, we're doing pretty good, actually. We shut down pretty tightly for a while there, and I think we're around the last couple of weeks. We've been between 200 and 300 cases in the whole country per day. So that's pretty good for us. And I think yesterday was the first day we had 0 deaths reported in my province, Ontario. So that's good, and things slowly opening up. Most places are still, restaurants and things like that, patio only, takeout only, but a lot of the stores have opened up, and they're discussing mandatory masks for everybody in the stores and in the grocery stores and places like that. So I don't think it's official yet, but for the most part, when I was out and about, most people were doing their part, staying away from each other, wearing masks, trying to limit this. So, I'm very proud of our country and what we've accomplished here, because it's a scary thing, and I'd hate to think if we weren't going by this, where we could be at,
Pepsi, a lot of us quarantines hit us kind of hard. We've added some LBs. Those are pounds. You guys have pounds in Canada? You know what LBs are, right?
Yeah.
How does the metric system? How does that work? You guys have that up there?
We do have the metric system, but I don't know that we all pay attention to it as well. I mean, I don't really know much about the metric system.
I was making the point that you went the other way. You're like in the greatest shape of your life, or one of the great. I mean, I've seen I've seen some pictures. There's an implication to that.
That doesn't sound right. You want to rephrase that, dude?
I've seen pictures of you working out. But you went the other way. Like, you're knocking out your shakes every single day, and like you eat clean. And I don't know if what age you're pretending to be today. If you're 28, if you're 42, if you're 41, but for whatever particular age you may be today, you are quite possibly in the greatest shape of your life. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would say that I'm close. I mean, even though I went away for a few months there, I kept training, which I wasn't sure would happen. Anytime you go on vacation, well, in my case, it wasn't really vacation, I guess, when you're gone that many months, but you always worry about, kind of getting out of hand. You have a few extra drinks, you eat a few extra cheeseburgers, whatever the case is. But I did a great job. I stayed disciplined. And when I come home, I kept training. And just before everything went down, I kind of had a suspicion this could last a while and it might not be very good. And, a lot of people weren't really sure what was going on. So I bought a bike and a core machine and I kept using that. I thought, okay, I'm not going to be the guy that puts on 20 pounds here. No excuse if I got this. And ordered a home gym. And yeah, I'm doing my best to stay in shape.
I feel like you're throwing some shade that way. That last sentence there, Pepsi. I feel like you're throwing it my way. I feel
your way. How do I know you didn't order a home gym and you're working out hard? I don't know, man. We haven't really been communicating a lot lately, but
I've done a poor job. I've let you down, Pepsi, but you know what? There's always tomorrow, I suppose.
You know what? I had high hopes for you. I still do, but you're never going to let me down. I'm always here regardless.
I appreciate that. And also, Bessie, if you're like, we'll talk about it. I have a whole list of things I want to talk to you about. MMA. You were an MMA fighter at one point too, and I imagine, and you were trained with some legit people as well. And I imagine you're in some really good shape at that time as well. But I want to talk to you about high school. High school, you were is it fair to call you like a baseball prospect? I know you're good enough to go down to the DR, Dominican Republic, when you're 15, 16 years old, something like that.
Yeah, when I was 16, I tried out for a all Ontario team. When Ontario is a province here in Canada, and Toronto's in that province of Ontario. For those that don't know much about Canada, so all Ontario tryouts went. I made the team. I was sponsored by a guy that was going to go on tour in the Dominican, do a bunch of tournaments. He was friends, the coach, with Alfredo Griffin, who was fresh off a Blue Jays World Series win in '92, and we were going down the winter of that. So I guess it'd be if they won it in October, a couple of months after the Jays had won the first World Series, we were going down to play in a tournament in Boca Chica in the Dominican that Alfredo Griffin runs, I guess, every year. We played a couple other spots too, Santo Domingo and some of the bigger spots there. But yeah, I was fortunate enough to make that team. I talked to some scouts down there from the Cardinals and the Dodgers actually while I was there, but never went much further than that. I was never drafted or anything crazy like that.
I'm going to show my ignorance here. Boca Chica, is that a city? I just think of Hiram Boca Chica, the old school baseball player. I love that name. Is that a city down there in the Dominican?
Yeah, it's a city about, I want to say 30 minutes from Santo Domingo. Santo Domingo is like the big city there where a lot of guys play their winter ball. They got a big dome and that. But Boca Chica is where they run this tournament yearly. Or at least they used to. I really don't know much about the last few years. But Alfredo Griffin's a big deal down there, I think. He does a lot of charity work and baseball work. And he runs this tournament for out of Boca Chica. At least he used to. And that's where we had the big tournament, yeah.
What's your big takeaway about playing baseball down there and just hanging out in the Dominican at 15, 16 years old?
I loved it. I mean, I'd never been out of the country, ever. And I a 16-year-old kid, never been away from his family. It was a big deal. It was over Christmas as well. So that was really strange not being around my family for Christmas. But absolutely loved it. Loved the weather. The people were so friendly. I mean, playing baseball has been my passion since I was probably 5 years old. It's been my number one passion. So, going down there playing was amazing. Some of the best players in the country and the competition. I mean, it was insane. I'd never faced pitchers like that before. I'd never seen curveballs and fastballs that were like this. So for me, it was just challenging, but an amazing experience as well,
That's where the nickname was born, right? Pepsi7, Pepsi?
No, shortly after that, actually. Shortly after that, when I came back, I played in a 21 and over league somehow when I was 17. And I didn't drink because I really didn't care for the alcohol, but also I wasn't legal.
Yeah.
So I never was having the drinks after the game. I just went out to outside the locker room and hit the pop machine. Pop, we say here.
The pop machine, of course.
And I grab a couple of Pepsis and sit and hang out with the guys, have a few drinks, right? And they didn't know who I was. I was a rookie. And so as I started playing better and, and getting to know some of the guys a little bit, they'd start talking to me more and more. And finally one guy just said, "Hey, rookie, Pepsi guy there." And I turned and was drinking a Pepsi and, "Hey, good game out there, kid." And then that just kind of stuck because they didn't care to know my real name, I guess, or didn't think they had to at first.
So you're a ringer. Everybody's over 21 years old. And you're 17. Is that how that worked? Yeah,
I'm trying to remember the details now. It was a 20 or 21 over league, so I don't really know how I got the team. Maybe they're allowed to have one underage. I forget now, but I remember feeling way over my head for a little bit at first. There, it's really tough being that much younger than everybody else and trying to make it out there. But it turned out pretty good.
You're always lying about your age. One way or the other, Pepsi. You're too young. You're too old. We know. Can we pin you down and could you tell us exactly? Are you 28 today? How old are you today?
Yeah, that's a good question. People don't discuss their age. I know more of a woman thing, I guess, to not discuss their age. But it's too bad that no chat here. I missed the chat already. I enjoy doing our shows on the chat there and guys guessing and stuff and giving up prizes for them. But yeah, I think it's better if everybody just guesses.
When we were, I'm jumping ahead, but I just got a flashback to we were on vacation. Like I said, we're like friends. We were hanging out. We were in Niagara Falls. I'm sure you remember the story because this makes you look better than it makes me look. But we were going into a casino, and I'm not sure if we're on the Canadian side or the American side. I think the Canadian side.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Doesn't matter. Well, I guess it matters because of how old you have to be. 18 to 21.
Yeah,
is that?
It was the Canadian side. Yeah.
Yeah. So they asked, and this wasn't that long ago, and you were clearly older than 18, but they asked to see your
We're
ID.
both in our mid to late 30s, I think, right? or somewhere in that area.
Yeah, so they asked to see your ID. You're in front of me, and like they give your ID a quick inspection, whatever, and then they just give me the wave on through. I'm like, well, look at mine. What no, he's like, no, you're good. I'm like, no, I want you to look at my. I was insulted, and then that's basically he's saying that I look distinctly older than you, which is, I guess that's fair, I suppose.
It's the gray hairs that give it away, I think.
Well, is it that obvious? I try to get my camera specs as must. Not all of us are busted out just for men, putting orange in our hair or red, whatever you're doing.
Yeah, I wonder if I ever went gray at some point. I mean, I don't think most guys don't really care, but if I start going gray, is there just for men that color? Like, I don't even know what color I am.
I don't know. I'm not sure if it's probably not a popular color. Yeah. I wouldn't think, but I don't know. But I think there is one like it blends the gray, and I tried it once out of curiosity just to kind of see like how I just want to see how it looked, and I was also growing a terrible beard at the time, and it just looked awful. And I'm like, all right, I just saved it off, and yeah, it was just a disaster. I'm like, we're not doing this.
Is it easy to tell? Like, it's obvious that you have brushed it in or something. Like, some guys wear the wig, and it's just like, dude, that's not a good toupee. Like, you can tell. No, but can you brush it in and make it? I mean, some of them got to work pretty good, I guess.
I think the problem was I didn't keep it on long enough because it still looked kind of gray. So I was like, this doesn't look right. So I just sort of threw it away. By the way, as a kid, I had your hair. I had your hair color. I looked like the dude from remember Mr. D from Different Strokes? I looked like that kid, Danny Cooksey. They brought him in really late on Different Strokes.
No, I remember watching Different Strokes as a kid, but I don't remember what's his name.
Danny Cooksey. I don't know why I remember his name, but he was also on a show called Sweep Your Shorts that was on Nickelodeon. No, nothing.
You're showing your age again, Dean.
Well, if I'm showing my age, unbelievable. I was so angry. Who was your comp, Pepsi? Who was I've actually, you know what? Where I'm always giving you a hard time, but I'll say I saw you later in life. We had a catch. I worked you out as far as like making you do some grounders and throwing the ball from third base. You remember this, of course, in your at your house, outside your house, not inside. That would be kind of silly. But and then I saw you in the batting cages. I think it was softball for what it was worth, but you were ripping, Pepsi.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be a really good ball player at one point. So, I enjoyed it. Like I said, it was my number one passion. I mean, I just loved it. I played it every day. I was one of those kids that couldn't wait to come home and throw the ball against the wall and hit and play and do anything 24/7. So I still love the game of baseball. It's still my number one passion.
Who's your comp? Who's your how much do you cost in DFS? What position did you play? You were a shortstop, right?
Yeah, I played shortstop most of my career. I was a catcher when I was younger and converted to shortstop. I even pitched a bit when I was really young, but as you grow up and start getting to these better leagues, then you realize that you're just batting practice after a while. So, or most of us do anyway.
Yeah.
But I was a catcher for a while. Loved catching, loved calling the game, loved being in control of that. I really did. And throwing out runners, I had a pretty good arm. That was fun. But yeah, I converted to a shortstop later and spent the rest of my career as a shortstop. But
you're mostly like a line drive guy? You would go for the homers or what?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, I still hit my share of home runs, but I would be more like my defense at one point was maybe the best in the province. Some would say defensively, I was very good. And I took a lot of pride in that. And but as a hitter, depending on the team I was on, I would either hit first, second, sometimes fifth. It was never the 3-4 guy. I never had that kind of power. But
hey, tell me this, Pepsi. Who was a better shortstop, Pepsi7 or Derek Jeter?
Oh, that's not even close. Derek Jeter is ridiculously overrated. Derek Jeter only won 5 rings or something?
How many rings have you won, Pepsi?
11.
And of those 11 rings, how many did you have within arm's length? Any next to you by chance?
See, this isn't fair. He's setting up. You told me to bring my rings out, so I have them here. So yes, I have my rings.
I said, Pepsi, you want to come off as modest as possible. Don't be all arrogant like you always are and say, bling, here are my rings. I got 10 on my fingers. Guess what the 11th one is? You don't want to do that.
Well, considering I just moved to a rental and took me half an hour to find my rings before I even got on the show. I mean, that's yeah. I knew you'd throw me under the bus though.
Do you want? You could show the viewers one or two of them if anyone kind of next to you, like to show off what you have because
yeah. Okay. So basically,
are you being serious by the way? As far as like I know Jeter already talks about like of course he's overrated. He's a Yankee and yada yada yada. Yeah. He's all his championship teams, but. And I was talking to Cardi about this too, and like he would make these plays and like, wow, what a play by Jeter, but everybody else is like, and Cardi's like, and you're implying, hey, like an actual like real good shortstop makes that look routine, so it's not as impressive as the way Jeter made it look. Is that kind of what you're implying?
I just think he's overrated. I think he was a very good ball player, but I don't think he was the best shortstop ever. Like a few times you've seen on Twitter, who's the best shortstop of all time? And it seems like half or the majority of them say Jeter. I'm like, the best of all time. Settle down, guys. He wasn't best defensively. He wasn't the best hitter. I don't know. I mean, I try not to be biased in baseball, but I just feel like Jeter gets a lot of love, and I'm not sure it's deserved. I mean, like, again, he's a very good player. A lot of people are going to hate me over this take, but I do think Jeter was overrated. He played in some great teams. I think he was an overrated player,
I'm not sure if you saw it, Pepsi, but he dove into the crowd and caught a foul ball. Did you see that play?
Well, he caught a ball in foul territory, and his momentum carried him into the crowd. Does that mean it's a great catch because he caught it in foul territory?
I'm not sure if you saw this, Pepsi, but like there was a relay that he caught and pitched to the catcher with about 3 or 4 feet away that nobody else would have considered doing.
But you know what, though? First of all, Giambi slides. That's not a conversation. But I will say this, though. Jeter had no business being there. But the great players, and Jeter was probably a great player, have those instincts sometimes to pick up on those things. The fact that he was in that place to make that play is incredible. I'll give him full credit for that because Jeter's not supposed to be there or anywhere near there. So the fact that he ended up there to make that play is phenomenal. It was a huge run, a huge time, and all that. But, I mean, that was a phenomenal play. The guy was a great player. I just don't think that he was as great as a lot of people want to think he was.
Sure.
Like, okay, who is the best shortstop of all time?
You're talking defensively or offensively? Or all just total?
Okay, give me total. Then give
me Alex Rodriguez.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. If A-Rod's going to be a shortstop, if we're going to consider him one, it's easy. It's A-Rod.
Yeah.
Do I like A-Rod?
Though, Pepsi.
No,
Steroids.
I don't like A-Rod. A-Rod. I'm not. I mean, here's the other thing with steroids. It's a shame that Barry Bonds is not in the Hall of Fame. He's maybe the best all-around player of all time.
Yeah.
He's by far the best hitter. Do I like Barry Bonds? No. Again, I try not to be biased in baseball, but he should be in the Hall of Fame. That span between 2002 and 2005 was the most incredible run you're ever going to see in professional sports, at least in baseball. If you threw the pitch a quarter of an inch off the plate, Bonds knew it was a ball and he took it. If you threw it on the corner of the plate, Bonds didn't hit it. He hit it in the ballpark. I mean, it was just incredible to watch. And, I mean, it's a shame he's not in the Hall of Fame. Pete Rose should be there too. I mean, it's different if you're a sumo wrestler, Dean, and you get huge and you blow up, or an MMA fighter perhaps even, and you're on steroids. But you don't got to hit a 98-mile-an-hour fastball on the corner of the plate or a changeup or a curveball. Did it make him more powerful and stronger? Sure. But he's still a Hall of Famer, maybe before steroids. And here's my real take. Yeah. 80%, maybe higher, were all on steroids back then. He just got caught.
Yeah.
But did he really get caught?
A lot of it is like if the pitcher's on steroids and the batter's on steroids, isn't that kind of sort of fair? I don't know.
The pitchers, yeah, a lot of guys didn't get caught. I honestly believe that 80% of the players during that span or era were all on it to some degree. They were all cheating and everybody was doing kind of the same thing to get on the same, even page or whatever. And I mean, yes, obviously Bonds looks like he was on steroids. It doesn't change the fact that he's one of the best players of all time. What he did on the field should be all that matters. If you kill somebody off the field or various other things you do, it's sad. You should be punished, but it shouldn't take you out of the Hall of Fame. It should only be what you did on the field. Like Pete Rose, the gambling thing, I mean, I don't know. I still think he's a Hall of Famer. He should be in the Hall of Fame. There's no Hall of Fame without Bonds and Rose, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of dirtbags in the Hall of Fame. If you want to go down that route, there's a lot of dirtbags in the Hall of Fame. And yeah, I was talking. I think Cardi said Barry Larkin was like his comp. Like Jeter's more like Barry Larkin. I think I threw out like Robin Yount. That's basically what he could have been if he just didn't play in New York and he wasn't one of those championship teams. It's not like shade. He's just not as good as the shine he gets.
Well, Larkin's a great example. That was Cardi said that?
I'm pretty sure that's what Cardi said. Yeah, we sort of talked about it.
I think that, was he the 90 NL MVP too, Larkin, I think? Somewhere around there. He was an MVP. I don't know. Did Jeter ever win an MVP?
Probably. I don't know. I don't pay attention to those things, to be honest. Like I notice them, but it's not something I have a recollection of. I would imagine so, but I don't know.
It's irrelevant somewhat, but I'm just saying, one year MVP doesn't necessarily make somebody a better shortstop in a career. I'm just saying that I think Larkin did win MVP. I'm not sure Jeter won an MVP of a season. And I think Larkin's a good comparison. Maybe his career wasn't as long, but that's a very good comparable to me. And I agree, he didn't get the credit he deserved, perhaps, and Jeter got more than he deserved.
So Jeter was the All-Star MVP of 2000, World Series MVP, five Gold Gloves. Ha!
Really?
Good Lord.
5 Gold Gloves?
Yeah, Jeter had 5 Gold Gloves.
I really didn't
How
know
drunk
that.
are the writers? Rookie of the Year, 14-time All-Star. That's enough shade on Derek Jeter, I suppose.
He's a very good player. He's a great player. I just feel like he gets, again, maybe I should say it this way. He gets too much credit where guys like Larkin didn't get enough. Maybe that's the best way to say it.
Yeah, Larkin kind of gets lost in history. A guy like Robin Yount just kind of gets lost in history for whatever reason.
Robin Yount was more known as a center fielder when his big prime year. I mean, I know he's a shortstop early on, but he's more known as an outfielder perhaps. But again, A-Rod also went to third base. So
yeah,
what's the criteria here? But yeah, I hear you. Robin Yount was a superstar for many, many years and doesn't seem to get the credit.
A lot of this stuff's probably fresh in your brain because I know you've been watching, you're talking off air, you've been watching these on YouTube, like the seasons. Every single season they kind of break down in video form. Is this something – have you knocked out the Jeter years? What are you watching there?
So I start MLB. It's called MLB seasons, and they don't have every year from like the 50s up, but they do like an hour on each season, break down the teams and the biggest moments, and then break down the playoffs. It's a lot of fun to watch. I've been doing that when I've missed baseball, and some of the years they don't have. So you can also go to World Series Film, also on YouTube, and they'll basically just focus on the World Series and that particular year. Again, about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. The shows are, but. It's been good, yeah. So I kind of recapped. I've been doing a lot of that the last couple of months when bored.
Did you play hockey at high school as well, or is there other high school hockey teams in Canada? Are there local squads? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in Canada, you played hockey. If you didn't play hockey, you're one of the few that doesn't, right? We live and breathe hockey here. It's our number one passion. So yeah, it's very rare to find someone that grew up and didn't at least play some hockey for fun on the pond or whatever.
Were you a goon? What was your game like in hockey? They don't have goons anymore, right? And NHL basically got rid of them?
No, I was a pretty good hockey player as well. I was a better baseball player. And later in my later years, like my later teen years and stuff, I slowed down in hockey to concentrate on baseball because, as you mentioned earlier, I was traveling and whatnot. And I realized I still wasn't going anywhere in baseball, but I enjoyed it more. And I was trying to go as far as I could and play the highest level and travel as much as I could through baseball. So hockey went to the wayside there a little bit. But I love hockey. I was a pretty fast skater, good hands, more of a playmaker, not a goal scorer, so maybe an Adam Oates type for those that remember
Boston?
Remember him. But I love the game of hockey. And I was a guy too that loved to work hard. I loved to get in the corners. I loved to win faceoffs. I loved to block shots, all those things that most guys don't want to do, right? But had a few fights, but I certainly wasn't a goon. I think I might have had maybe 7 or 8 fights my entire career in hockey.
Give me your most memorable fight, and how tedious are the things you fight over? Is there something that's completely silly, completely goofy? Does it progressed throughout the game, and it's just that third period, let's just throw down? My favorite, by the way, I'll let you answer in a second, but I love when they're starting a game. They don't do this anymore, but in the old school, before the game even starts, like two guys are talking smack, like let's just go, let's have at it. It's a callback to something previously that happened.
Right, that's the case. Well, I mean, most of my fights were during playoff series because, like anything, after you're playing a team 3 to 5, 4 to 7 series, you start to hate each other. And once one game gets out of hand, somebody's losing or winning big, that's when the fisticuffs can break out. So a lot of teams, maybe their target, because I wasn't a big guy and I was usually one of the more skilled guys. So they figured if they just beat the snot out of me and rough me up, I'd just go away. And that usually worked. But I wasn't that kind of guy. I wasn't really intimidated easily. And the more you piss me off, the more I try to rise to occasion. So, we get to game 4 and, generally we'd be up a few goals. And that's when somebody do something stupid. I'm like, okay, I had enough. I can get kicked out of this game now, and the way it went. But I had a couple of good memories, actually. I got in a fight one time. This is probably the best one. I was in high school facing our rival. We just went up 3-1 in the series on home ice. I just scored a big goal to put us up like 4-1 late in the third. So it kind of clinched the game. And this one guy just been a pest the whole time trying to, gooning me up. So finally I said something to him on the bench on the way by, basically saying, yeah, now we can go, So he came out, we dropped the gloves, and I was actually doing quite well. Popped his helmet off quick because back then we had helmets and masks on, full masks. So if you didn't get that mask off, you were in trouble. You turtled eventually. So I popped his mask off real quick, threw a few 4 or 5 good shots into him. And if I just had kept hitting him, I'd have won the fight. The crowd was going crazy. It would have been great. But I tried to jersey him, just to basically embarrass and jersey him and finish him.
It's a classic move.
In the midst of me fighting with his jersey and stop punching, he decided to pop my helmet off and pop me right in the nose. Both eyes watered, couldn't see a thing. He hit me a few more times, and I took him to the ground. And the next day, I had 2 big shiners in a fight that I really should have won, but I tried to get cocky and jersey him.
Are there unwritten rules of like it's got to be one of like nobody really comes? It's like a third man in. You don't really see that too often. At least I don't notice that. It's always like everybody kind of was like a couple guys are hugging and a couple other guys are hugging, and then two guys are fighting over here. Are there unwritten rules as far as hockey fights?
Yeah, everybody get a man basically, and there's a third man in penalty. It's usually severe. You're tossed out for a few games. If you leave the bench or you're the third man into a fight, it's not just 5 minutes or that game. Usually it's a suspension of some sort. So the only time that really happens is the odd 5-on-5 fight where a guy attacks a guy, like maybe their goon goes after our best player sort of thing, just to beat on, and somebody else is going to come in and save him more or less. But third man in doesn't happen too often unless you're just pummeling a guy and nobody's breaking it up, which I've been in a few brawls too, unfortunately, where I've seen buddies of mine getting double teamed, and I'm coming no matter what at that point, right? You just can't let that happen. So
sometimes like one of your teammates does something stupid and you have to just kind of step in just to help diffuse the situation as much as possible, or just try not to let them get annihilated completely.
Yeah. In the one case though, like it's just a matter of, we had a brawl once where it was one of those games where everybody's getting tossed out left, right, center. Again, it's a blowout. And I think they had 15 guys left. We had 11. And then late in the third period, we had a bench clearing brawl. They had 4 more guys than we did. And we had a couple guys that one guy wanted no part of fighting. Another guy refused to leave our bench, and their entire bench cleared. So we had a few situations where, a couple of guys were getting double teamed. And I was basically at one point just going after a couple of fights I'd already finished.
Yeah.
I was going around trying to, save some of your teammates, you know what I mean? But that team though was crazy. We had a few MMA fighters on that team. So I think they thought they're in pretty good shape. And there's a few other guys laying on the ice there for a while. They walked into a few of my buddies my one buddy, Sean Pearson, who fought in the UFC, he knocked out 3 guys, I think, before that brawl seemed to be halfway through. So crazy.
You mentioned Sean Pearson, you mentioned MMA. Let's talk about that, because I know you trained at some point, you fought MMA. I don't know when you did though. Were you 20 years old? Were you 25? Were you 30? When did this happen?
Oh, what did that have been? I would have been late 20s, I guess, early 30s when I started.
Why'd you start, out of curiosity? Like, you're just wanted to get in shape?
Yeah, I mean, I always loved mixed martial arts. My dad was a mixed martial artist, but I didn't really pay attention to it back then. He tried to show me things, but I would armbar my friends when I was young, and he had to stop teaching me things, or I remember doing things to my sister, and I got in trouble, so they had to shut it down until I was older. But then when I was older, like mid-teens, late teens, I was traveling for sports. I was playing a lot, and I just kind of didn't follow through with learning anything from him. So fast forward 10 years, my buddy Sean Pearson and I are playing baseball together, hockey together, and he's known as one of the better fighters in the country. But we don't know how good he is just yet, because the UFC is just kind of starting up, and he's getting older, not really fighting full time. So he opens up a club for MMA, local club, and says, or actually somebody else opened it up and he was doing the training. And he says, come on in for 3 months or so. I can get you, free pass for 3 months. You can train and you can learn. And he says, get your ass in shape, And I said, oh, I'm in shape. And he says, no. Get in real shape. And I'm like, dude, I'm playing hockey. I'm playing sports. Like, okay. So I joined a gym, and for 3 weeks I do steady cardio. The stair climbers, sprints, I'm doing everything. Crunches, things I've never done before. And I come back in 3 weeks and I say, yeah, man, I'm in good shape. Let's go. And 2-hour class, first class, 8 minutes in, I was done. I mean, I had no idea what being in shape was until I started this. I started doing arm bars with this one guy, and he looks at me and says, are you gassed, dude? I'm like, yep. He says, we got 2 hours of fighting left. I said, I know. So that's when I realized when he said get in shape. I mean, I had no idea the kind of shape those guys were in. So there was no way possible for me to get in that shape. I didn't know that existed. So it wasn't until I started training that I went, oh my God, this is what being in shape's all about. I mean, it's just, for those of you trained, you know what I'm talking about. And those of you who haven't, it is absolutely insane the kind of shape they're in.
I mean, of course I can relate to this story, Pepsi, but if you could help for our listeners. Yeah. So like, what did you start at weight wise, or it's just, you're kind of the same weight. You're just kind of building up this endurance. You're just changing the structure of your body. What did you go from weight wise? Do you recall?
Actually, I was a little bit chubby back then because I didn't eat well, didn't know much about nutrition. I played a lot of sports, but I wasn't intelligent in terms of, like I said, nutrition. So I was probably around 180.
Yeah.
And so I lost a lot of weight, obviously. I was going 3 classes a week, every week. And I did that for a few months before I had my first, amateur fight, we call them. And I was down to 155 in 3 months. So I lost almost 25 pounds. And that just goes to show. And I started eating better. And obviously my friend Sean Pearson had some of the best nutritionists and trainers in the country. And I was learning from them about how to cut weight and what to eat and when to eat it. And all these things were new to me. So I eventually got down to 155 and was fighting at lightweight at that point.
Tell me about your first fight.
They say you learn a lot more from your losses than your wins, and that was the case. I got absolutely destroyed in my first fight. I was 3 months into training. He was 6 months, which 3 months doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're only 3 months and 6 months is twice as much, obviously, and it is a huge, huge difference. And I couldn't get any combinations off because when I hit the bags and the pads, I hit them real well. But when he moved, it didn't help me. So he beat me up really bad. He threw a lot of kicks to my body and my legs especially. I couldn't walk, legitimately could not walk for 2 days. I was black and blue and had to basically sit in ice packs and ice baths for a couple of days before I could walk normally or upstairs after that fight. But I learned a lot from it. I started going to the kicks as my main thing moving forward, and I didn't lose a fight after that. So you do learn a lot more from your losses than that, but that was what a learning experience that was.
You won what, 4 or 5 fights after that?
Yeah, 4. I went 4-1, so I won 4 straight fights after that one. And actually, at one point, thought about turning pro, and I would have fought at 135 because my buddy Pearson had said to me, if you can get down to 135, you got heavy hands for a small guy, you do really well down there. But at 155, I probably would have got killed. So, yeah, it never actually happened though. My father got sick and passed away around that time. I stopped training, but I was really, at the time, I was really considering it. And I was actually planning to go to Chicago, I believe it was, with a group of people to do some amateur fights there. And then from there, it was like, okay, time to turn and see what happens. But yeah, I never got to that point.
I'm trying to think of the timeline because obviously, and I'm sure you remember this too, UFC, like in the 90s, the late 90s, it was just like the rules where there was like no weight classes.
Yeah,
right?
No rules, basically.
Yeah, so I guess at some point you're talking about 135. So I assume you're talking about post 2000, right? As far as fighting.
Yeah, there was no 135 division even in the UFC at that point. But you could still, turning pro didn't need to fight the UFC. It's just like there's, like in any professional league, there's many pro leagues to be in. So I would have turned pro because the only thing you can do outside of amateur fighting, if you want to make money and travel, you have to turn pro, like air quotes for those who are not watching us. So yeah, I was only turning pro to have bigger fights, have prize money, travel, that sort of thing. But yeah, this is all before the UFC blew up. I remember talking to my buddy Pearson about it, and I kept telling people my buddy Pearson's phenomenal. Like he was destroying fighters that had, 3rd-degree black belts and all these different medals and things, and he was killing them and training in amateur fights. And I kept telling people, he's the real deal. I mean, he'd be in the UFC if he kind of didn't quit. And of course, most people don't believe you, right? And he was watching a lot of guys hit the UFC and have success, and he said he'd fought and beat before. I believed him. And eventually he got the call to the UFC. He decided to go back into training again because he was just frustrated seeing these guys blow up. He's like, I beat all these guys at one point. So he ended up getting the call to the UFC, and he was a welterweight and became good friends with George St. Pierre, actually. And he ended up with a 5-2 record in the UFC. And I think he didn't start fighting until he was 35 or 36 before he went back to the UFC. So at the end of his career, he was still beating guys up pretty good there. So then the UFC was blowing up long before that point.
Yeah, I just pulled it up on the fly, and he was fighting in the UFC. It looks like 2010, 2013. I'm not sure. Lance Benoist, Kenny Robertson, he beat these guys. I'm not aware of these names. I'm not very savvy when it comes to UFC. I know some of the guys today, but what's that?
I don't think that was pre-UFC. I think his first UFC fight was Matt Riddle. And even if you're a UFC or a fighter fan at all, the Matt Riddle, Sean Pearson fight, that was his first fight. And it might have made the main card even. The first fight in the main card, maybe it was the undercard. But on the pay-per-view I'm referring to. But that fight itself is an awesome fight, period. They go 3 rounds. They go toe-to-toe. It's all stand-up. It is a war. Matt Riddle, Sean Pearson. I don't know how Matt Riddle got out of the first round. My buddy knocked him out, I thought, 3 times and then held on for dear life. But if you're just a fan in general and you're listening, you got to watch the Sean Pearson-Matt Riddle fight. That is a beauty.
By chance, do you know what Matt Riddle is doing these days?
I don't. I actually went back and watched a lot of the Ultimate Fighting, the TV show, Tough, The Ultimate Fighter. And I didn't even realize he was on it. I didn't know who he was until my buddy was fighting him. But tell me what he's up to.
He's a WWE wrestler.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah.
Awesome. Good for him. Good for
Yeah.
him. Wow,
There you
that's
go.
great. I didn't know that.
He's
What's his
still
name?
fairly. His name is Matt Riddle, apparently.
Oh, there you go. Okay, well,
Well,
that's
people
cool.
know him through UFC, so I suppose like you might as well keep your name or some value to that. I guess that's how that works.
Yeah.
Let's pivot. Let's talk to DFS. I'm sure people want to hear about your DFS history as well. When did you discover DFS? When did you find out about it? I suppose you're probably playing season long with your friends before DFS was a thing.
Yeah, I was a huge season long guy in baseball. And I remember actually running leagues as a teenager and getting the newspaper on Tuesdays with the full stats and updating the whole league and doing all that. I was a crazy baseball guy, right? I was very passionate about it all. Yeah, so I've been doing season longs for many years. And then when I started having a lot of success, we'd start playing for money. And then, you start doing well in that. It's like, okay, you start moving up to the higher stakes and things like that. And yeah, I remember at one point, I think the year before I joined, or the year that I did hear about DFS, I was in, I think, 11 or 13 leagues. Yeah, so, and then a buddy of mine, Sean Chard, actually, he was also maxed out. Maybe some people know him on DFS. He did some work for RG as well, kind of some content. And one of my best friends, actually my best friend outside of DFS, sorry.
Pepsi, I'm right here.
Yeah, well, I got to be honest to the viewers, right? He's my best friend. We were hanging out together doing a baseball draft in March, I believe. That's what it was. A baseball draft in March in 2012, I want to say it was. Yeah. And a friend of mine was playing DFS hockey. It was playoff time for hockey. And he was showing me that he had a team. And I think Milan Lucic from the Bruins just scored. He showed me the whole point system. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. And he was telling me about it. My buddy Sean dabbled a little bit and was saying, yeah, you know what? He said, I'll pop over when baseball gets going. I'll set up an account with you, because he had an account already with FanDuel, I believe. And he said, I'll set up an account and we'll have a hangout day. We'll watch some baseball. We'll make a lineup. I'll teach you to use it, whatever. And we'll play. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that sounds cool. And in May of 2012, we end up checking it out for the first time.
You mentioned playing season long in the newspaper, and like that really takes me back. And I just imagine some listeners are like, what's a newspaper? And so like the worst thing with the newspaper was, first of all, I would take the paper with me to school and I would do like our stats, like in like one of my classes or something like that. And I'm sure a lot of people did that as well. But if you didn't have the latest edition, like they wouldn't have the West Coast games in it. So like you would never have the box score for the Giants or the Padres and all that kind of stuff. But this is like before the internet. Really exposing how old we are. Yeah. But that was so tedious doing those numbers. But that takes you back for sure. So you discover playing DFS, and I assume you're kind of like me. I don't think you're just not somebody that just unloads thousands of dollars and just starts playing. Maybe you deposit $50, $100, $200. You're interested in see how it goes down. And is that sort of your experience? You just kind of like dip your toes in and let's see how this works.
Yeah. So my buddy comes over on like a Saturday, I think. It was a Saturday. He comes over, and I remember because he played in the Sunday as well. I think he crashed to my place. So I had an office, kind of a cool setup there with a couple of TVs and the MLB package, so we could watch a couple of different games. Maybe even 3 games at once, I think, at one point I had up there. And so he comes over, we put the games on, and we start building the FanDuel lineup. And we do it through his account because I haven't signed up yet. I don't know what it is. I don't even know if I'm interested. It just seems cool. He goes, I'm going to join a tournament. Why don't we build a team together? And I think he joined like the $1 bunt. Is that right? The bunt beam?
That sounds right. This is collusion, by the way, just so you know, you're colluding, the two of you.
Oh, really?
I don't, just messing around.
We built a team, and basically he grabs the first baseman, I got the second baseman, something like that, I think. And we entered in the bunt with like, I don't know how many thousands of people in the $1 tournament, and win the tournament. We had a late home run from A.J. Ellis, who he picked.
Catcher.
And we win the tournament. I mean, it was probably like a couple $100, but I think it's pretty cool. So we open up an account for me. The next day is Sunday. We decide to both jump in the bunt together, make our own lineups. My buddy Sean's winning the thing the whole day. And real late in the day, he gets passed by me. And I win the tournament. He finishes second. And then we both just kind of fell in love with it from then, and away we went.
So you both had this like great beginner's luck, and that's that. Like it wasn't even like a struggle from the start. And did you know enough at the time to like stack? Like that wasn't common knowledge. There wasn't RG, or if there was, it was in the early stages of. So like, did you even know that, like, hey, the optimal way to do this is let's play 4 or 5, and I think you FanDuel early let you play 5 to 6 players from one team. But like 2020 Pepsi or 2015 Pepsi, however you want to look at it, probably has a different way of building lineups than 2012, right?
Yeah, like in 2012, I don't remember all the rules, to be honest, because I was just, it was the first time playing. I don't think I knew anything about stacking. I didn't really have a strategy. I just kind of went to positions, and, I was aware of matchups. That was the whole idea daily, is that you could exploit the matchups, right? So I was aware that, I wasn't going to roster a lefty versus Randy Johnson, for example, just because it was cheap or whatever. So, you get on there and, you could exploit certain things, which pitchers were fairly cheap in a good matchup perhaps. And we did have access to lineups. So I kind of did a little bit of that early on, which might have been ahead of the game a little bit, but I think some of the sharper guys were likely already doing that. So, it was just kind of, probably just luck the first few tournaments, but that got me hooked. And you start doing more research and dig it in, and you start playing more, and you start winning some money and think, hey, this is good. Let's try to up the stakes a little bit, and away you go. And next thing you know, you're doing quite well at it.
I should say RG is celebrating his 10th year anniversary. So by my UCF math, RG was a thing. It was around. You probably weren't aware of it.
No,
and other sites of that sort. It's just obviously it's not at where the level it's at today. You get a ticket to a live final. And I know some people are signing up for these contests, and you're just signing up for contests. You don't know what you're signing up for. I think either you had that story or your buddy Sean, who became a friend of mine through you, of course. Did he have that story? Or do you have that story where like you won a ticket to a live final and you didn't even know what you won? Like, why? Where's my cash?
So I was a Friday. I was coming home from work, like a regular job, and thank God I don't do that anymore. And 2012, I think it was like I'd been playing DFS a couple months, jumped into a FanDuel qualifier because I'd come home from work and was just looking at tournaments. It was a Friday night. There was lots of them, and this one said trip to Vegas, and I went, nice. Who wouldn't like that? Never been to Vegas, right? So I joined it, and I made one team, and I jokingly went downstairs to my mother and wife at the time and said, hey, I'm winning a trip to Vegas tonight, guys. Here we go. And I didn't really believe that. And then I explained that I entered some tournament, didn't know all the details. Turns out it was a DFS qualifier for the DFBC, it was called back then. I did end up winning the thing. And as I was in first place, I was actually like in third or fourth place climbing up, and realized, hey, I got a shot to win this later in the day. So it turned into a sweat. And then I started reading the details and went, oh, this isn't just a trip to Vegas. This is the whole like final seat, like a poker thing. Like that's how I described it. It's like I'm getting a chance to be at the final table in a poker game. And I had no idea that I was winning a seat plus the chance to win big money. I simply thought first place was a trip to Vegas, and second, third, fourth was money. So I really didn't know at the time that I entered it what I was getting into. So later on, when I was actually doing well.
Did you sweat it out? Do you remember did you close strong? Did you have to hold off somebody else? How did the last few minutes work there?
I remember vaguely. I'd rostered Mike Trout, who was a rookie, and was fairly cheap or reasonably priced. And I needed Trout to come up and either double, single, or get on and score. I needed like a couple of FanDuel points back then. And the Angels had a couple of guys on. It was late in the game, and it wasn't looking great. And I think Mike Young made a routine error. Was it Mike Young playing second for Texas, maybe?
For the Rangers, that's certainly possible.
Mike Young makes a routine error to bring up first and third with 2 outs. And that brings Trout to the plate. It was a total routine. No, it wasn't Mike Young. Kinsler. It was Aaron Kinsler.
Okay.
Sorry to Mike Young. Kinsler makes a routine error. It was totally routine. Like, it wasn't even a tough hop. Just complete botched it. Trout comes up, shouldn't have come up, hits the base hit, gave me the 1 point, and then the RBI for the 2 points, and that's how I won it.
All right, you're on your way to Vegas. You figure out it's you won a ticket in a tournament to a much bigger tournament. Once you find out all the hoopla and all that, and I believe the very first year. I know Dan Bach and some of the RG guys were covering it. Either the first year they were there, or you of course were spoiler alert. You were there the next year as well too, with even some more tickets. Were you what were you prepping as far as in advance as far as getting there? And of course you show up in Vegas, and it's just if it's like the way that I've seen. A massive room, TVs everywhere, open bar, everybody's super friendly. But what are your big takeaway before your actual finish?
Well, first of all, going into it, I have no idea what to expect, right? And not only did you win the ticket, you also got to take a +1 with you. So I convinced the wife to let me take my buddy Sean because it's a baseball trip, and I want him to help strategize with me. And it's only a couple of days. He's more valuable than she is, and I can win money. This is serious. So I convinced her to let me take him. So we go down. Have a blast together. But yeah, FanDuel is very good to us. RotoGrinders is very good to us. We, like you said, Friday night you meet the people and you go to dinner. Brazilian steakhouse, I want to say.
Ooh.
Which not cheap by any means. Good food. I think I don't drink, right? So for me, it might have been free drinks too. But we have a whole area. They paid for everything. The next day we did some other event. Everything's covered and paid for. And then you do, of course, the Sunday, I believe, was when we did the was it Saturday night? Maybe it was the Saturday night we did the main event, and RotoGrinders was there, and you meet Dan and a few other guys, and but I mean, I was a nobody back then, and you know, just you don't know who is who or what, and it was just kind of all pretty new back then. So I don't remember a lot of the guys, but I do remember you talked about the whole stacking and whatnot. I remember one guy in particular had heard on the radio as he was going home from work that the Oakland A's had a 340 batting average against so-and-so pitching tonight. So he stacked the whole A's roster, all 9 players, which I guess was allowed back then.
You could do that? I thought it was like up to 6, but okay. I don't recall exactly. But
no, it was 8 or 9. He had the whole team, and Oakland scored 21 runs that night. And he won his ticket based on that. He later found out that those numbers were wrong that he heard, and it wasn't that pitcher or something. So, I mean, total fluke. And I think that's so when I got there was a few stories like this. One guy couldn't get home from work, so his buddy made the lineup for him.
Oh, boy.
And which is perfectly legal because he has the account and all that. And he made it for him. You know, just like you get stuck at work, Dean. I go into your account, I make the lineup. You win. They agreed to split it, and they were both there. So there were some crazy stories about how everybody got there. But, yeah.
Did you also tell the guy that, like, the batting average against the pitcher, even if it was, like, a thing, is stupid? To, like, base your lineup off that?
I mean.
Nobody cares about batting average, Pepsi.
We all need a little bit of luck in life, right? Some people believe in higher powers that are helping us out sometimes, but we all need a little bit of luck, and it was certainly on his side that night, considering he got the wrong matchup and still put up the 21 runs. But
you didn't want to, well, actually, the guy. I understood. Yeah, he just pointed to the scoreboard. Who am I? I'm just some jerk on the sideline saying, yeah, you know, it's kind of silly to do.
How do you argue? He got it right. I don't know.
It's the old scoreboard point for sure. And where'd you finish?
I finished 6th overall. I remember I had Clayton Kershaw that night, and I was in like 11th or 12th late. And every home run I remember was getting, every strikeout was getting me an extra $1,000. So he was into the 5th inning, and we'd done the math and done the points, and there was another guy with me there too. Jack and Soda maybe was no.
That name sounds familiar. That's an old school DFS guy.
Yeah, I don't think that was him though. I'm trying to remember the names.
Was it like STL Cards that year? Or the next year?
I don't remember. I remember meeting him the next year. What a super nice guy he was. He was the first guy to ever walk up and say, you know, hey, I'm STL, nice to meet you. Because again, I don't know anybody. I'm not familiar with all these, you know, things. And he was pretty sharp guy. He'd been winning some money back then, and you know, he's still killing to today, obviously. But I think he knew a few things and knew the ropes and stuff. And he super nice guy. Come up and talk to me. But yeah, but I don't remember him the first year. But I know for sure he was there in the second year. But yeah, I mean, talk about meeting. I mean, I know you don't going down a different road here, but some of the DFS people you mentioned earlier too, like they're all pretty nice guys. Everybody's friendly, and they really are. But you know, not everybody. I mean, Cards is a guy that I'd like to get to know on a better level. He's just one of the most genuinely friendly guys. The guy's brilliant in all aspects of life, and he might be the best overall DSF player in the world. Period. If you consider all the sports.
Yeah, you know. I had him on previously on one of these like about a month or two ago, and of course all these are on YouTube. At least most of them are on YouTube, not YouTube. They're on the podcast feed, but the Cards one is I'm always fascinated because he's got, you know, he's juggling so many different things. Yeah. He's got kind of a 9-to-5 job. I think it's a 9-to-5 job with accounting.
He's an accountant, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he's got. I mean, I'm not sure what his hours are, but I assume he's busy enough with that. And you know, he's got kids, he's got a wife, he's juggling like 19 different sports. He does a ton of content for every sport. Yeah. So I'm always super impressed with how he makes things work. And he crushes and he makes money, like you said, as well, too.
Yeah, he is as good as anybody in every sport. It's insane. It's just a brilliant guy. And I think when you have that brain capacity and those skills, you have the ability to do all these things and juggle all these things. I couldn't do what he does. I mean, let's be honest. In DFS alone, very few people, if anybody, has been able to achieve what he's achieved.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly, he's got to be in the conversation. I'm sure he might get lost in the shuffle too, because maybe he doesn't like one specialty sport per se, but he's crushing golf right now too.
Yeah, you could say, hey, this guy's better at football. That guy's got a better record in baseball. I'm talking overall. I honestly don't think, in my opinion, right now, off the top of my head, STL Cards is the best DFS player in the world today if you're counting every single sport.
If there's like a DFS decathlon.
Right, he's the guy. Like cheese and baseball, easy, hands down. Yeah. And I know he's great in other sports as well.
He's crushing esports right now, cheese.
But a lot of times he's crushing other sports, he's self-admittedly, because he reads STL Cards' content or someone else's content. But I just mean if we all couldn't read any content and played every sport, I have a tough time thinking anybody could beat STL cards.
I throw awesome out of the conversation too, but so you're talking about great guys that you met in the industry, and this is a great opportunity for you to compliment me for I'm not unprompted at all. I mean, feel free to name other names too, but who are like your favorite guys you've met throughout the years?
Obviously, you and I clicked pretty early and got along pretty good, and then became great friends. And that was, if anything that comes out of the DFS thing, I'm awful happy to be as good of friends as we are, and we're going to carry that into the future, which is really nice. But there's just been so many great people. You start a job and you end up liking 2 or 3 people usually. A couple of people maybe rub you the wrong way, or maybe you just don't see eye to eye. And the rest of them are just there. That's
name those people. Job. That's a more fun conversation.
No, I'm saying that's a regular job, you would think. It hasn't happened. I've met like hundreds of people, and I don't have a bad thing to say about anybody. It's like I'm trying to be honest, but everybody's been awesome. I mean, there's just it's so hard because you get to these events and there's so many people there and there's so many things going on. You know, you don't get to see everybody. Like I said, STL Cards and I have talked a bit, but that's a guy I'd love to hang out with more. Cheese. I love Cheese. Cheese is the greatest dude, man. I mean, he's just a lot of fun. He's funny. Again, he loves sports. Not much of a drinker like us. So that's why the 3 of us probably hang a lot. But Cheese is the one guy I'm going to find if I've already met up with you, which I'm sure we probably showed up together. So he's the one guy that I want to hang out with as well because he's just a great dude. He's a lot of fun. I don't think people get to see all sides of his personality when he's on the air and doing his content. Sometimes you read his content, but I love Cheese. Not only is he an absolute stud in DFS and the greatest of all time in baseball, hands down. I don't think anybody compares to him.
Crazy humble too. He's like, you'd never suspect if you didn't know he was as great as he was, you'd never know.
Yeah, he won $8 billion. It's like, yeah, I rebuilt the kitchen with my wife. I drive the same car. I mean, that's really like nothing changed at all.
He bought ice cream, extra scoop.
Brag, you know.
You went back. Oh, so you're still working your job, I assume, right? This job you hate. But what is this job you don't particularly love so much that you're working before? Obviously, you jump in the RG and doing content for DFS.
I wouldn't say I hated it. I was a dispatch coordinator for a trucking company. I didn't hate it. It's just a regular job. I mean, it paid well and was doing okay. But at one point, I was making more money playing DFS. Was starting to dread going to work every day. And when I was working my off, making this money, and in a weekend of football, I made this much money. It was almost like, So I thought, you know what, I'm going to so-called turn pro, perhaps quit my job and try to do this. A bunch of guys were doing it. I was having just as much success as they were close. It was before the 2013 DFBC, sorry. And I thought, you know what, I think now's a good time to try to quit, see if this works out for a year. I could always jump back into this field because my resume was good. And I thought, why not try this and try to become a so-called DFS pro and see where it goes. Plus, I had some tickets coming up for the DFBC, which could have resulted in so I thought, yeah, I'm gonna jump now. So I think the DFBC was in August. I think I quit my job in July to keep playing and to see what would happen.
What did you win the first year? About 30, 40K, 50K? I'm not always sure how big the contest is. I know you said you finished in 6th place. Do you remember what it was, more or less?
I think it was only 7,000.
Oh, okay. So yeah, and it jumped obviously the next year, unless it was completely front loaded.
I think it was it's prize pool wise, it was top loaded, right? Like I know what the year before Beers won it, I think it was 50,000. Beers made it, he won it, and then next year, I don't know who won it. I think it was a guy that didn't really play a lot, kind of disappeared. I forget his name, but I think it was like $100,000, and then the money drops really quickly. So I think 6th place was only $7,000. The following year, 2013, when I won it, it was $200,000, and then.
Cheese won $1 million.
$200,000 to $1 million when Cheese hit it. I'm like, really? $200,000 to $1 million the year after me? That was hey, no complaints. Like I said,
that sounded like a complaint. It sounded like a little like a complaint.
I shouldn't complain. I shouldn't complain. Like I always say to you, we leave money on the table some nights and we're bummed out a little bit. And I always say, hey, never complain about winning money. Even the nights when you feel like, yeah, I should have won more. Never complain. But yeah, it would have been nice if I'd have won the first year to hit the million. But Cheese did it.
And that's we should qualify. That's American. That's not loonies and toonies. That's American dollars.
That's the other thing. Right now, like for the past few years, the American dollar has been 125 or 130 versus Canada, right?
Okay.
And the year that I won in 2012, we were almost on par. We were on par because I remember basically a Canadian dollar and American dollar were 1 for 1 then, and that had been a long time since that happened. And then, of course, that's when I won the American dollars. Again, I'm not complaining.
It sounded like a complaint. It was tax-free, though. There's a nice perk.
That's the wonderful thing. Yes, everybody kept saying, how much did you win and how much is tax? And I went, nothing, no tax. It's considered lottery winnings here in Canada, and it was tax-free, so I can't complain about that.
So the Pepsi household had four tickets to the next live final the next year. You had a couple in the bank, and you said, "Screw it, I'm gonna quit my regular job." And I don't know if that was just you calling your shot. That's you pointing the center field, like you just know you're gonna win this thing. Take me through. Now you have the experience of the first live final you went to. You finished sixth. Now you're going back. You got 4 tickets in the household. Do we have a certain strategy? Somehow you just knew you had an inclination Devin Mesoraco was going to hit 3 homers for you.
Well,
how does that work out?
The whole quitting the job thing had nothing to do with me expecting to win big money. Like I knew with 4 tickets that I think they were 5,000 or 6,000 was the last. Like they went and kind of
at worst.
Yeah, worst case scenario, if you finished the last 4 seats or last 4 places, you got $6,000. So I had, I'd already won a couple of seats as you'd mentioned. So I wasn't really counting on that. I was having a lot of success in cash games and money was good. So I thought I could make as much doing this. So it was more about that than the bonus tournaments or DFPC finals. But yeah, so take you through that. I go there, you know what to expect this time, right? So, you get there and you recognize some people, you know what to expect. At that point, I joined RotoGrinders, was listening to the Dan Box podcast, and he was actually talking about me, which to me was like, wow, he knows who I am. This is crazy. So he had reached out and asked if he could interview me when I got there. So I was excited about meeting Dan. It was a big deal. And some of the other players I'd started to get to recognize. You get to know the guys and players and stuff. So when you get there, there's a few guys I wanted to meet. And again, STL Cards was there. And like I said, he was just a great dude in general. Just meeting him was real cool. And but the one thing I thought, you need to be more prepared. I wasn't as prepared as I should have been. Lock yourself in the room the night before for a couple hours. Before lock, make sure you've looked at every lineup, you've read everything. Don't really lock into certain players. Have an idea, have a strategy, but be open because now you know how lineups change and everything gets affected. And whereas I just kind of winged it the year before that, right? So that was more the plan. Like focus. This is life-changing money if you can have success here today. Don't screw it up. And it was almost to the point where the first couple of days I didn't enjoy them as much as I should have because I couldn't stop my brain from working with lineups and different things. And a lot of pressure there because I felt like I couldn't fail. This was a big deal. And I had to do this right because it's a great opportunity. And I mean, for the last few weeks even, but especially the last couple of days leading up, everybody's partying in Vegas and having fun. And I just couldn't get it in my head, man. I just wanted to have the event over so I could relax and enjoy, right? But yeah, I literally Saturday night was in my room just strategizing with my buddy Sean, who also won a ticket that year, actually, which is crazy.
And was that something I feel like I'm combining stories, but he won a ticket like not knowing he won. I guess he knew because like he found out what you were the previous year. He's aware of what's going on, and
right.
It just happened to work out that he was. Yeah, it's amazing.
So
all the tickets.
Right, I got the wife there who's never been to Vegas, and my mother come down too, which is really nice. And my buddy Sean, who isn't my +1, wins his own seat anyway. And he's there with his wife because he brings her as a +1. So it's almost like a family reunion and made the experience even better.
Yeah. So you're strategizing with Sean, figuring out your lineups, kind of make things work there. Somehow you ended up landing on Devin Mesoraco. I think on pretty much all your lineups, if not all your lineups. And that also at the time, you had to have a catcher. The way FanDuel was structured. It wasn't a utility spot, but a catcher was something you had to have for sure. Like he bangs out 1 home run. You're ecstatic. Was he heavily owned? I'm guessing he wasn't because he wasn't, or was just like a super cheap punt. Is that what he was?
Yeah. So I actually locked into, I think, 4 players on all 4 lineups. I mean, I just felt like their value was too good for the matchup to get off them. I know a lot of guys later on told me that was crazy. And looking back on, I thought if I'd have finished 27 through 30, I'd have probably been pretty disappointed that I did it the way I did it. But I wasn't thinking, hey, I'm going all in and trying to finish first, second, third. I was just locked like Howie Kendrick at $2,400 at second base versus the lefty. That's just too good to pass up on, hitting in the 2-hole with Trout behind him. Johnny Peralta at $2,400 at shortstop facing a lefty was just too cheap to pass up.
Silent H.
In Camden Yards versus a Baltimore lefty, might have been Wade Miley or something like that. So there were things like that I felt like, I think there was 3 players or 4 that I locked into on every team. Devin Mesoraco, I'm a big fan of punting, or at least was back then, punting catcher with power. Mesoraco is a guy I liked. It's not like I was in love with him and foresaw these 3 home runs coming. He was $2,100, and the next catcher I think I liked with power was like 26 or 27. So Mesoraco, lock button with all those value guys, Peralta, Kendrick, Mesoraco, then build your 4 different lineups from here. That's kind of where I was. Now, my 4th lineup was $100 short I catch you up 2,100. It went to JP Arencibia. Had I had the $100, I would have had Mesoraco again and went 1, 2, 3, 4. To be honest.
JP Arencibia, as a Blue Jay fan, you probably were not ecstatic to roster JP Arencibia.
The worst defensive catcher I've ever seen.
The Derek Jeter of catchers. Is that what you're trying to say?
Oh, no, let's not go there. You're the one saying that about Jeter. A little too much credit for Jeter. Still a great ball player. JP Arencibia used to drop throws from the outfield on plays that play where the guy was – he just dropped the ball. One hopper from right field from Batista. He's out by 2 feet. No, Arencibia drops it. Like, consistently, just a terrible defensive catcher. And he went over for me that day, too, Dean. So, yeah.
I remember him as like a poor man's Mike Zunino is kind of the way I remember JP Arencibia.
Yeah, he did have some pop, yeah.
He had some power. He struck out a ton. Terrible batting average for what it's worth, but probably crushed BP. I would imagine he was great at BP.
Yes.
But, you don't get any fantasy points for that. When it's all coming into fruition, when all your lineups are lining up, and I know we've talked previously a lot. We've exhausted that conversation about how you ended up with 4 lineups and yada, 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 yourself and the Pepsi household. We've discussed that. But if nothing else, it's super, super impressive that your house, you had 4 live final seats, which is amazing. So that was pretty awesome. When it's all, coming to fruition and like you see yourself basically, are you on the podium all across the board? 1, 2, 3. What are we at? 1, 2, 3, 6, something like that. Yeah. How do you finish?
I was 1, 2, 3, 7. My buddy Sean was 6. So we're all sat together having a pretty good afternoon. It happened really fast early. Like we had RotoGrinders had rented out an entire bar at the Bellagio. So the whole sports bar was ours. Celestial Cards, a whole bunch of us were all there. Some of the bigger names, and I'm in my own little group here. And in between that, we're doing interviews. So Dan's interviewing some people. How you doing so far today? Hey, what's your background? We're doing things like that. Free food, just a great show by FanDuel and RotoGrinders. And pretty early on, I jump out to the lead, and my top 3 lineups just kind of stayed there most of the day. Peralta homers in the first inning. Mesoraco homers, obviously his first 3 at-bats. I had McCutcheon in one lineup. He has a big day. I had somebody else in another lineup, and he homered. Like early on, I jump out, and I kind of just was way ahead for a while and stayed there until a late Angel stack started to scare me. Even though I had pieces of that, I had Kendrick in all my lineups. Yeah. But other people had more players, so that scared me to the end there. But in general, it wasn't a real sweat. Like I felt pretty comfortable. I remember at one point, Dan interviewed me maybe halfway through the day, and I had a pretty big lead, and we're kind of breaking down all the numbers in at bats. He's going like, dude, I don't know if anybody's going to catch you. I'm going, hey, I don't want to say anything, but I feel really good. And he said at one point, what are you winning right now? And I just did the math, and I went, that's pretty crazy.
About $500,000, more or less?
No, it was because it was 200 for first, and it dropped significantly, right? Maybe
okay.
Second. So I think I won three and change.
Yeah.
Actually, US, it was like 293, I think. And Canadian was like 303 or something, I think.
How do you even allow him to interview you in the middle? Like, I mean, he could have been a mush. I mean, if you believe in jinxes and things like that.
That was hard. Yeah, I missed Devin Mesoraco's last 2 home runs just because, like, who hit that? Oh, Mesoraco's coming up. Oh, that was Mesoraco, yeah. Because so much is going on. You got all the games, all the people you're talking to. You're doing a couple different interviews. There's a lot going on. So I missed a lot of my big moments because you're not by yourself only watching 3 games,
Yeah. So what do we I know this. I think I know the answer to this. What do we do with the money? What do we do with the winnings?
Well, I mean, I was poor growing up, so I never had money. I wasn't used to having money. So I just recently bought a house, and I paid the loan off. So being debt-free was very nice. My wife wanted to travel, so I'm like, hey, we got some money. Let's do some travel. So that got the travel bug going a little bit. And, that's about it. Really didn't do crazy. We went on a few trips, Costa Rica, Jamaica, did a few trips like that, Philippines. And, I started playing some higher stakes because I had the money to do so and felt like, I could do well there. So I started entering some more higher stake tournaments and kind of up the play a little bit. But aside from that, nothing really changed much in my life. I started to save the money that I was paying for the mortgage and desperately wanted to buy a new car. But I had a Honda Civic. And we know they're a beast. They last forever. It's only like 5 years old or something. I'm like, I just wanted to buy a Lexus or a BMW and put a system in it. And I wanted to do that because I didn't come for money. And I wanted to have something that was like, but I thought, it's a waste of money. It's unnecessary. You got a car that works. I'm not a real flashy guy in general. So I didn't really go crazy. Paid the mortgage off and was very happy to do that.
teenage Pepsi wanted a Lexus and wanted a system and wanted to blast that out, just have a good time because
Yes.
I never had that either. That wasn't my lifestyle either. I didn't have the money for it either. That wasn't how I grew up. But and I'm sure you saw other people having at it and good times with that for sure. But yeah, totally unsexy. Nothing sexy about that Pepsi. You're paying off the house, but it's smart. Yeah. Well, and then you start working for RG immediately after, more or less after, is doing baseball and hockey content.
Yeah. So I don't remember how close to that after that. I mean, like I said, Dan and I have been talking. I'd met Cam as well, and Cameron McMillan, for those guys that don't know him. And I'd met, a few of the big shots in RG there. And they were talking to me a little bit. And then I think Cam actually approached me and said, hey, we'd be interested. No, Mr. Cal Spears, I think, actually might have said to me, hey, jumped in a cab with me, I think, one day going somewhere and started talking about, RotoGrinders. I said, yeah, I'm aware of it. I've been reading some of it. I'm a big fan. And he said, would you like to come on and do some content? Of course, at that time, I just quit my job. I was going to do DFS anyway. I'm like, this is the perfect storm, right? So I said, yeah, I'd definitely be interested. And believe it or not, I started off in football doing the grind down before I moved to baseball and eventually hockey content. Yeah.
That's you're a big Steeler fan. Did that affect your content? Did you talk up the Steelers a bunch?
No, I mean, those in DFS, though, you got to bet with your brain, not with your heart. I mean, I rarely touch the Blue Jays just because of that situation. I'm a Blue Jays fan, but I got no problem taking the picture against them and cheering for them when it comes to money. I mean, as much as I'm a Blue Jays fan, it's money first. If I can win a lot of money because I got the picture against the Jays, I'm cheering for all the Jays to strike out. But so you gotta bet smart. It's talking $1 or $2, and the Jays are in the World Series. I'm okay losing some money for them to win it, but regular season game and the Jays are not a contender, then I'm definitely cheering for me over my team.
How did you balance building DFS lineups versus content, like doing both at the same time? Like we talked about, how does Cards do it? How do you do it?
Yeah. Well, over time, it got more and more difficult because as my role grew with RotoGrinders, eventually I faded off of football, became baseball full-time, hockey full-time, so I could do, baseball in the summers, hockey in the winters, and concentrate just on those two sports. And the more and more you do it, the less you end up playing. And it's not by choice. It's just that I thought, hey, 8 or 9 hours of my job a day was tough. I'll go to do my content, 3 or 4 hours of work. I'm done. It's half days. It's not like that because you start looking the night before. You dig in the morning. Things change throughout the day. You're doing all kinds of research. I'm spending more time doing research and content than I was my regular job. But at least I love this. Yeah. But you spend so much time doing that. And, of course, the lineups don't come out till later on. So you finalize a lot of your product around 2 o'clock Eastern. You're maybe making some changes till 3, 4, 5 with whatever you're doing content wise. You're fixing this guy's not out. You're changing your rankings. Maybe you're going on the air that night because you and I got a show, and then you get off the air and some of the lineups have just come out. There's no time to have already built 40 or 50 lineups. You can't change them now, so it became more difficult. And also too, I was more interested in having a good show and putting out good content and being right and teaching people than I was in me winning at this point because your reputation is on the line now. So, I obviously wanted the success and you want to win money, but I was, that was all fine, but I wanted to be credible and I wanted to put out great content. And again, like I said, your pride's on the line here and your integrity. So you want to put out great stuff. So it took away from me. So the more I worked for RG and the more content I did, the more my roles grew, the less I played because you just didn't have the time. So instead of playing thousands a night, you got cut back to maybe 500 to 1,000 a night instead of 2,000 or 3,000 a night, depending on what you're playing, right? So it was just harder to track it at that point. I mean, I don't regret it. I loved it. And you're getting a guaranteed salary to write DFS content. It's the best job in the world. There's no complaining here. But yeah, my playing did slow down. It does change things, as you know.
Yeah, time is a commodity. Time management and what you're prioritizing is important. And I mean, Pepsi, I'm sure obviously optimizers are out there. RG's got an optimizer as well as far as lineup builder. But I'm pretty sure you're kind of like me where I don't fully reject them, but I personally like to hand build lineups. I think you like to hand build your lineups as well too. So you're not somebody, tell me if I'm wrong, that would like to build, 50 lineups through an optimizer. I don't think you embrace that.
No, I never did it. And it's fine. I mean, if guys do that, throw 200 lineups and 10% of this guy, 30 of that guy, and just kind of whatever happens. It's a great strategy. But for me, I don't build that many lineups, and I'm old school. I want to build it. I want to look at the lineup. I want to tweak it based on my player pool that day. And I'm more comfortable with that. I rarely maxed out tournaments. I basically would go, okay, big tournament tonight, big money on the line here. Man, I'm going to throw 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 entries in here. That was kind of my limit because I fell in love with players or stacks like the DFBC where I just kind of locked into certain guys, and I don't play guys just in case. So I kind of lock into my thing. I'm all in. I'm an all in or all out kind of guy. So when I had good nights, I had monster nights, and when I had bad nights, they're awful. But yeah, I like to hand make my lineups. I like to know that I built those. I rarely played more than 8. It was mostly around 3 or 4 or 5 in terms of tournaments. But I spent I'd play as much cash usually as I could if I loved the night.
Favorite teams, Pepsi, the Blue Jays, the Maple Leafs, right?
Yeah, I'm a Toronto guy. So, I mean, growing up, actually, going to hockey or getting away from baseball, I was a huge Edmonton Oilers fan. And I don't know why as a kid. I guess because the Leafs were so bad, they never made the playoffs. So I loved Grant Fuhr, Wayne Gretzky, those Oilers dynasty teams. Huge. But as I get older, of course, the Leafs are always on. You fall in love with your home team. So Leafs, Jays, to a smaller extent, Raptors. I'm not a big NBA guy, although I'm starting to come around the last few years. And I did jump on the bandwagon for the Raptors playoff run. I got on early, though. You know what I mean? I didn't get on in the finals. I got on early, but I really enjoyed the run. And, of course, traveling around the world, a lot of people playing basketball everywhere. So I started playing some more. And then you watch the Michael Jordan Last Dance special. I've become a bigger basketball fan. I think I'm going to maybe play a little more going forward and get a little more involved and keep playing basketball in the Philippines, for example. That's like the number one sport there. So I played quite a bit when I was there, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, so a couple things that you hit on that. The RG basketball game, you were a champion, I believe, because Noto carried you, if I'm not mistaken. He was the Kawhi, and you were, like the 12th man off the bench. That you were scrappy.
Basketball. I'd never played basketball in my life, and Notorious was on my team, and thank God he was. I feel like the worst player on the Chicago Bulls or the worst player on the Gretzky-led Oilers that won a championship.
You're like Bill Wennington or Luke Longley or somebody like that. But hey, W, it's all that matters. You get the W there. You mentioned the Philippines, and we mentioned earlier in the year, early in this podcast, how we were just going back to the Philippines, and you took a break last year. And I don't know if you're, you've spent your money well as far as taking down your big tournaments, obviously, and just DFS monies over the years, and just working for RG and all sorts of things. You've invested money wisely. Is Pepsi retired? Are we in kind of a holding pattern of some sort? You went over to the Philippines, and you did a lot of charity work over there too with kids. And, just are we retired? Do we don't know? Is it kind of limbo? We'll see. And talk to me about the Philippines, man, because just talking about you, some stories over there and some of the cool things you're doing, I think it's worth sharing with the people.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, DFS has been very good to me. I'm very thankful to have found DFS and hit it at the peak when it was blowing up, and I obviously allowed me to be successful and have some extra money to possibly retire early if I'm going to do that. I'm not sure yet if I'm retired. I took 6 months off in the winter to travel, and as you mentioned, went over to the Philippines, did some charity work there with kids groups and church groups and things like that, and loved every minute of it. So much so that I actually built a house there. So that's going to be my winter home for at least a few months as I get away from the cold winters here in Toronto. But
you got a couch for me if I want to crash?
I have a very nice place there if you want to crash, yes. Actually, it's being built now as we speak, so when I go back. So, like I said, DFS has been very good to me. I invested into my house, which worked out really well for me as well, which I recently sold in order to kind of figure out my next chapter in life here. And I think the Philippines will be a big part of that. And I've got a friend over there who does a lot of good charity work and with the youth camps and the kids groups at church and stuff. And it's just, there's a lot of sad things going on in the world. And I'm a big fan of Ellen. And I always wanted to be the guy. Imagine being Ellen and be able to change lives and help people in need and help good people. I've always wanted to do that. I thought that would be amazing. I'm certainly not doing that on an Ellen scale, but when you get into some of these third world countries, it doesn't take much. Actually, it probably doesn't take much in the country you're in certain pockets to change somebody's life or to help somebody. And I really want to be a part of that going forward. And I had the opportunity to do that with my friend this past winter, and I want to do it on a bigger scale going forward, which is why I bought a place there. I'm going to go back. I'm going to continue to do things, and I'm going to try to build something there, just to help the youth and the kids. And really, anyway, we did a lot of things for homeless people as well. It's not just about helping the kids. It was basically anybody in need, and the most rewarding thing I've ever done by far.
Yeah, I always thought that was super awesome, and I didn't want to. Yeah, I wanted to bring it up because I know you're kind of modest about it. You don't really talk about it so often, but I think that's so cool that you're doing that. And the few times I got a chance to talk to you while you're over there in the Philippines, both times or several times, you're always like, yeah, I'm in the middle of buying this, or I'm in the middle of buying that, or I'm buying a bunch of toys for the kids, or what did you do today? We were out with a bunch of kids playing, you just throw out a bunch of sports equipment and say, let's have that. And you just like play games with the kids. And like you say, some places just don't have what you think, like, I don't know, a Frisbee or you tell me, what are you throwing out there on the beach for everybody to play with?
Yeah, so when we're on the beach, then I shipped about, I think 5 boxes to the Philippines, just full of different things, balls, soccer balls, Frisbees, baseball bats, toys, just all kinds of floating devices and things. So when I got to the beaches and various places we're hitting, every kid, I made sure it's some toy to play with. And we went into a lot of the poorer areas too, where kids basically had nothing. They don't have a toy at all. And the parents basically buy rice or a little bit of food, and that's where the money goes. And some of these kids, parents can't afford to put them in school even, which is really sad. Every kid should have an opportunity to have an education. So yeah, on the beach and stuff, I just hand out toys and playing with kids and teaching them baseball, because of course I love it, right? So leaving baseball bats and balls there. And again, soccer balls, Frisbees are easy for everybody to play. Basketballs, we built a few basketball nets for certain areas that, couldn't afford one, or maybe they had one, but the cement in the area is all kind of broken up. Maybe the net's falling apart. So we put some money into that and kind of pave an area, put up a basketball net, give them a couple balls, and then we play with them for a few days and move on to the next town, sort of thing. And tried to make a difference in their lives and help them and put them in a position to enjoy life. They're kids; they should be having fun, and anything you can do to help somebody in that situation, you should be doing. And I'm happy to do it.
That's awesome stuff, Pepsi. And you're also for holidays, you were doing like care packages. I don't know why in my head I want to say Valentine's Day. Is that correct, or is that not correct? I probably had the wrong holiday.
Yeah, no.
Like you bought a bunch of chocolate for
Right. So it was Christmas, and again, it's the second time I've been away from my family. I love Christmas, and to me, Christmas is all about giving. And I don't have any young kids in my life anymore, and everybody's kind of grown up, so it kind of loses some of its luster, Christmas. But I thought, if I'm going to be away from my family, I'm going to be over here, I have to do something for Christmas. So my friend and I were trying to figure out the best way to to do that, to make the money go as far as it can. So we bought as many toys as we could, and we made these, as you said, care packages. So I went to the store and I grabbed like packages. We filled them with local chocolate. So it was pretty cheap, right? And, packages like yay big, little square container, and we wrapped them all. So kids had something to unwrap. And I just walked around for 3 days, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and Boxing Day, just basically saying, Merry Christmas. People are thinking about you, and, hope you're doing better and things. We just talked to homeless people, to kids in certain areas. And, depending on who it was, maybe gave some food out or gave some blankets out or the chocolate packages, mostly toys to kids, because again, a lot of kids don't get toys. If their parents have money, they buy food. So for them to get any kind of toy is just a shock. Like getting a girl a Barbie, was amazing. Getting a kid a dinky car. These are things they don't normally have. So just seeing smiles on faces and having my friend record them and all of us taking turns kind of walk around doing this was an amazing experience. It really was. And I'm looking to do it even bigger and better on a scale soon. I'm trying to figure out ways to do that. But I may actually soon, Dean, and I'll let you know if that happens. I may be taking even maybe setting something up where I can take donations and stuff and start putting up videos to try to encourage people to help do it. And I think it's a good idea too. If people see where their money's going and see the results of things, it might be good. So in the future, I might be doing something like that.
That'll be pretty awesome, Pepsi. And that's really, I'm sure it's incredibly rewarding. Just like you said, simple thing, simple gestures, and like just a smile on somebody's face is you're making their day. And it's a little gesture, big gestures, little gestures, all that. And it's it's something you can do. You're in the position to do it, and you do it, and it's pretty awesome. But I pulled up your Twitter, and I'm like, oh, maybe you'll tweet it out, like but you're the worst Twitter person in the world. You're terrible at Twitter, despite the fact that you have over 7,000 followers. You haven't tweeted since like over 7,000. That's egregious. You haven't tweeted since like 1972 or something like that. But honestly, I can't find the last original tweet. Your last original tweet was in reference to the Raptors winning the title on June 13th, 2019. So there you go. Wow. We the champs, because of course we win and they lost. You attached yourself to a winner.
Yeah, I became a bandwagon pretty quickly there. Yeah, I don't love social media, to be honest. I only joined Twitter because of the RG platform, like to promote our shows and to do various things. I'm not a guy that I don't need that attention. I don't care for a lot of it sometimes. So I'm happy to answer somebody and help them out, but I'm just not the guy that needs to be involved in social media and have all that attention. It's just not for me. I want to play my sports, live my life, and that's it. I don't need that.
Yeah, I mean, you come off of this modest guy, but remember pre-show you were insisting, hey, let me show off the FanDuel belt that I have. Like, the people want to see it. I have to show them, like, look at this belt. I can hold it up. It fits around my waist. Was that not the conversation we had?
No, I don't think so. I think this is you throwing in the bus again. Hey, if you're gonna have you on, Pepsi, you gotta get the rings and belt out. I'm like, I don't know where those are. You got 3 hours. Go find them.
Is it next to you by chance? Did you have to drag it out or no? Do you have it or no?
I have it, and it's even got dust on it still to prove that it hasn't been sitting anywhere here. But I got it for you. You know I wouldn't disappoint you. There it is.
I just realized something. You have a virtual background, your Canadian flag, and he just disappeared holding that belt.
Doesn't look very good.
No, Devin's like, what is going on here? You were screwing up with the feed or whatever. But I promise you that is your FanDuel championship belt. Pepsi, I'm keeping you for a while, but I still have some. You got a few more minutes, right? You can hang out.
Yeah, I'm maybe retired possibly, so I got all the time in the world.
Don't retire. I mean, I want you to keep. Well, if nothing else, you're going to still play DFS to some degree. You're talking about maybe from a content perspective, possibly. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I love DFS. I'm going to keep playing, maybe on a smaller scale, but I'm still going to watch the games. I'm still going to play. I even try to do it over in the Philippines, which I don't even know if it's legal there really, but I was able to play somehow anyway. Maybe I shouldn't be saying that, but
probably not. I don't know.
I still love playing. I'm going to keep playing, but maybe my working days are done. Maybe I'm going to relax in Canada, play some baseball, play some DFS, and winter comes, head to the Philippines and enjoy the sun and do my work over there and enjoy all the charitable things we're doing there. And that could be a good life. So I think that's where I'm leaning. But I love RotoGrinders. They have been wonderful to me. So I'm certainly not saying that I wouldn't be interested in something. But, yeah, we'll have to see what happens.
I hope you stick around, but if it's the cost of like helping out, you got to help kids out too. You got to do both. You got to figure that out because we can't have you abandon that. And that's obviously that's something I'd be happy to support. Pepsi, once you set that up, that'd be amazing. And I'm sure a lot of people out there listening would be happy to support it as well. Some of your favorites, favorite athlete as a kid, athlete as an adult.
Tony Fernandez is probably the first guy I fell in love with as a fellow shortstop. I love Tony Fernandez. I think that's the shortstop right there that doesn't get the credit he deserves. Defensively, incredible. I think he made 6 errors in all of 1985, maybe it was. Played in a few good teams, but Fernandez is a guy I think was really underrated. Of course, I could be a little biased because I was pretty young watching Tony Fernandez. So
yeah.
Later on, Roberto Alomar. I tried to be Roberto Alomar. I mean, defensively, he was a wizard, and he kind of did it all: stealing bases, hit for power, average. I tried to emulate myself after Mr. Alomar, but those are probably my two fans. And Ricky Henderson, which is kind of strange being a Blue Jays fan, but Ricky Henderson. I mean, I was a massive Ricky Henderson fan. I mean, I don't really love the arrogant, cocky guys, but there's the odd guy that comes in there that kind of backs it up that I guess I'm okay with. Like, I don't want to be Ricky, but I kind of love watching Ricky. It's just, yeah. But
do you know the Ricky Henderson story of him and John Olerud? Are you aware of the story?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I read the Ricky biography, and there's a lot of good stories of Ricky being Ricky. But that was long before Manny being Manny, by the way. But yeah, funny enough, being a Jays fan growing up, I shouldn't love Ricky Henderson, but I do. I'm a baseball fan. And my favorite moment of all time in baseball, funny enough, normally you would guess what, Dean? As a Blue Jays fan, my favorite moment should be
the Joe Carter homer.
Right. Touch them all, Joe. You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life, which was unbelievable. Don't get me wrong. When your team wins the World Series, although I feel like I was still too young to appreciate everything. Watching your team do it now as a grown man, I think it's just much more rewarding. But anyway, that should be my favorite moment. But because I'm a baseball fan first, the Kirk Gibson at the locker room home run against Eckersley in the 88 World Series, that's my favorite home run of all time. And I never want to see the Dodgers win another World Series. I'm not a Dodgers or a Yankee guy for some reason. There's two teams that I'm not cheering for. I'll say it nicely. It's usually them. Not always, depends on the players. But that Kirk Gibson moment to me just gives me chills watching that. And that is the moment I've seen more than any other moment in baseball, despite loving a team and having your favorite team hit a walk-off home run to win it, which is strange, right? Yeah,
it's strange for sure. And that I remember watching that when I was a kid. I remember watching that home run live, of course, against Eckersley, who was like, Eckersley's in the game. It's over. Forget it. Right. Just go to bed, And, of course, Kirk Gibson was hobbling. That was his only at-bat of the series. That was game one. He came out of the locker room, and he couldn't move. Like if he hit the ball in the gap, he'd probably barely get a single. But he just banged one out. And, of course, everybody remembers like when we're doing the visual with the arms and like
yeah. But, even Vince Scully. Now the only question is, can he get around the base paths unassisted?
Yeah, Vin was the best too.
But he also said, as he scanned the Dodger dugout, he says, and as you'll notice, their MVP, their leader, Kirk Gibson, will not be in the game tonight. And apparently he was in the locker room and iced it up and had told him he's not playing. He heard that and went, what? Don't tell me what I can't do.
Yeah.
And just decided he had one good swing in him.
I remember, it reminds me of the 86 Mets, where I think with that, basically Boston was like, basically about to put him out. And was it Kevin Mitchell was just like hanging out drinking in the dugout, supposedly, like just having a post-game drink, and that's what those guys did. And I think they had called on the pinch hit, and I think, did that trigger the comeback? I don't recall, but vaguely I remember a Kevin Mitchell story.
Yeah, I know Mitchell got a hit. Ray Knight, Mitchell, and Carter all got hits, and I remember to a man them all saying I wasn't going to be the last out. That was kind of the thing. They didn't think they were coming back to win that game and the World Series. They were just like, I'm not going down to be the last guy out here. And they all kind of got 2 out hits with nobody on base. And I don't know about the Mitchell drinking thing, but I remember I think it was Knight, Carter, and Mitchell, and then of course we know what Mookie Wilson did, obviously.
Yeah, well, that whole thing is wild because the score was tied, by the way, on a wild pitch before the Buckner thing.
Yeah,
why is everybody angry at Buckner? The score was tied. Like, whatever.
Calvin Schiraldi, poor Billy Buckner, had a great career. Maybe even the Hall of Famer. Is he in the Hall of Fame?
No, fringe.
Like he's close, right? He was like almost kind of. And
I think he was in the fringe.
I mean, we had great years with the Dodgers too, and all we remember is that. That's too bad. But you know what? That's just poor coaching. He was a defensive replacement always, and they left him on the field to celebrate. You don't do that, man. That comes back to haunt you. The old game ball too. Remember the manager comes out and gives the guy the game ball, things like that. You don't give a team a reason, man.
It's like Dan Buck coming up to you in a live final and telling you it's over. Congratulations in the middle of it.
He didn't say that. He just meant that I had a pretty good lead, man. You look like you're in good shape. And I'm like, don't say that.
So, and also, the other thing I remember about that 86 World Series, I don't know why I'm harping on it, but it was in Shea in New York, and it said on the screen, on the big screen, congratulations, World Series champions, Boston Red Sox. They flashed it on the screen temporarily in the middle of the game.
Yeah. And then the Red Sox jumped up like, 5-2 or 4-1 or something the next night, too, before blowing that lead. They were up a few runs even in Game 7.
It's probably Calvin Schiraldi's fault. I don't know why. I just assume that's who it is. I could be wrong. Do you have a favorite? You're talking about favorite moment in sports, but what about like at the game, physically at the game? Is there a moment you can think of any sport, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be a big game, just something cool you've seen?
Yeah, a couple things. Again, as a Blue Jays fan, Skydome. I was a kid. Always had seats. I went to a ton of games as a kid. Glenn Allen Hill, the Spider-Man. He hit a ball. I was in the very upper deck, like Jose Canseco territory, sitting there watching BP with a buddy of mine. And a ball went just to my left. A bunch of kids chased it. My friend turned to look. My friend Sean, same friend. And I turned with him to look. And I moved my arm. I was sitting in the seat like this. Off the seat to look at these kids chasing a ball. And Glenn Allen Hill shattered my, what do you call that? Like the arm brace of the seat. Hitting a ball. Like that was 500 feet where we were. Like the other ball that was up here was like bouncing up here. This ball would have killed me if I was looking at it. So that was one. Glenn Allen Hill hit some bombs, but I was at the ALCS. The Jays beat Oakland in '92, which is pretty crazy. Walking around the city, high-fiving people. As a teenager, I was there. And actually, I might have been like 12 at that point. And the other thing I remember more recently, what I think everybody knows, Jose Bautista, the home run over Texas with the bat flip.
You were there?
He hit that ball. It's 3 rows below me. Sean had good ticket packages there, so he got me seats for that one. And we were there. He hit it maybe it fell in the section just below us, or a few rows just below us in that game with the bat flip.
Well, the thing is, what led up to that, if I remember correctly, Pepsi, and I'm sure you remember, and I don't, wasn't it like 3 or 4 consecutive errors in a row?
Yeah,
by Texas.
2 in a row.
Say it again.
Yeah, Andrews made at least 2.
Yeah,
there might have been 3 errors, but there was at least 2 in a row by Andrews. Yeah.
It's so wild you bring up Glenn Allen Hill, by the way, because I was going to say he threw a foul ball to me. He threw a ball to me while I was in the stand. So we both have a Glenn Allen Hill story. How about that?
Yeah, thankfully he didn't kill me, but that was the guy that there's always those guys that you're like, why didn't you develop into a better player? But Glenn Allen Hill, man, in BP and in some of those early years in Toronto, he showed the potential of 50 home runs, and he had some monster shots, but never really developed.
I don't know, but I'm going to guess he had like that Pedro Serrano disease. I'm going to guess the breaker is what got him. Just going to guess.
But he's too young to really know why he fell apart, though. But yeah.
Your father was a DJ. So give me your favorite band all time.
Yeah. So when your father's a DJ, you got access to music from the 50s up in every genre, whether you like it or not. So I'm pretty much aware of every hit song probably from the 50s up. So became a huge music fan. Favorite band ever all time? Gotta be the Beatles.
Okay, I was gonna say Beatles or Stones, but that's it. Beatles. Favorite Beatles song? There's a correct answer, by the way. I think there's a correct answer.
Okay, so Come Together if it's a little bit harder, and if it's gonna be soft, it's Let It Be.
I like A Day in the Life. You're not wrong, but I like A Day in the Life. I like. I'm a sucker for that one. No?
Okay. I mean, there's no bad. Is there a bad Beatles song? Really? Come on.
I'm sure there. Yellow Submarines. As far as the popular ones.
There are some songs that I will skip even. Yes.
What is the first CD you bought?
Oh man, first CD I bought.
Or first record? Do you remember buying a record?
I never bought records because my dad was a DJ, right? So he had to have everything. So I would make mixtapes from his records, but I never bought one. I was probably too young to buy records. CD, I was like 12, and I bought. I didn't buy it. I got it for Christmas. Poison, Open Up and Say All Live.
Yes.
But I got 2 of them that year. I'm trying to remember the second one. I remember that one. I think
I got like Rat.
No, never had Rat.
White Snake.
You know what? It was a double disc. That's what I'm thinking of. And I think the other one was eventually. It was Aerosmith Big Ones. I think was the other one. Greatest Hits, and I think John Bon Jovi's Greatest Hits. They all kind of about the same time frame there.
I never got into the hair bands. That was a little bit before my time, and I just didn't really care for it. Who was your favorite hair bands?
My sister was older than me, and she was a big fan. My older cousin was in a band. They all, it's all they listened to. So I think I got into it pretty young. Favorite hair band all the time, probably Guns N' Roses, Motley Crue's close.
Is Guns N' Roses a hair band? Technically, yes,
I mean,
maybe.
They're on Hair Nation. They were considered heavy metal. I mean, they had the hair. I don't know.
I don't think Guns N' Roses is a hair band, but I'm not saying you're wrong. That's an interesting question.
Outside of that, I'll throw some more at you. I mean, I mentioned Poison. I love Slaughter, which is really an underrated hair band. Yeah.
By the way, Beavis and Butthead is coming back. You mentioned Slaughter, and I just think of Beavis and Butthead watch. I can't imagine they're still doing the same shtick, right? They're not watching like Whitesnake and Rat and like Metallica. Who was the terrible band? Like, remember that they had a friend who had like a different band name. It wasn't. Oh, do you know what I'm talking about?
I didn't watch much of it. No, I didn't.
Okay.
A little before my time, or maybe I just wasn't really into it. I don't know.
It's not coming for some reason. Let's talk food, Pepsi. Milk in a bag. It's something I was not aware of, but the Canadians, you guys like, I don't know what's to say. I just wanted to say milk in a bag, which of course is a lot more than the Jack in a bag, which is a whole other thing when we talk DFS.
We're the only country that does the milk in a bag. I don't understand it because you got to buy a container, then you got to put the milk in the container, they got to cut the top. Like, I don't understand why we just don't have a glass jar or carton like you guys do. I mean, there's a lot of things I think we do right. That's not one of them.
Yeah, I did not know it was a thing, but I went to Canada. I was pleasantly, I don't know, I was surprised. I remember I held it up. I was thoroughly, I just enjoyed it. I think it was a photo op you have to take. An American
picture. I still have that picture. Yes.
So we were in Vegas, not when you were in Vegas. We were in Vegas a couple years later, and we became friends. We were at an RG party, and myself, yourself, I think several other RG people, we went to one of the buffets there. And, you know, I don't think you're a buffet guy. And I don't know, in Vegas, of course, it's just so, I mean, the Vegas buffet is just so gluttonous, I guess, for lack of a better word. And we took you to the buffet, and I don't know how impressed you were, but I remember you were disappointed at the desserts at a buffet in Vegas is absolutely ridiculous. Like any sort of cake you can think of, any pie you can think of, any sort of dessert, all the ice cream flavors, all 31. But you came back from desserts and you're like, this is bullshit, man. Where are the butter tarts? Like, what? Butter tarts? And you're trying to explain to us what butter tarts are? Yeah. You were so angry. There was no butter tarts available. Yeah. I guess it's another one of your, yeah.
I don't remember being as angry as you say I was. And I certainly don't remember saying this is bullshit. I don't think that's but I do remember going, I remember actually I was with Ducky at the time. Ducky and I would wander around together and, you know, we just eaten everything from ribs and chicken and fries, you know, to the main course to go into different desserts. And yeah, I'm like, where are the butter tarts, man? I love butter tarts. I didn't know butter tarts were like a Canadian thing. Like I haven't been out of the country much. Remember, I was a poor kid. I just recently committed some money and hadn't traveled much. So for me, what you grew up around, you just think is normal everywhere. So I didn't know they didn't exist everywhere else.
Another thing that did not exist in Canada, but does exist in America. Well, I think it's in Canada now, but you love Cheesecake Factory.
Oh, yes.
And I know your Cheesecake Factory order.
Yeah. Anytime I landed in the States, before I went anywhere, driving or on a plane, before I landed, I knew where the Cheesecake Factory was. And it was the first stop every time.
And anytime we would meet up or anytime we would go on a road trip or whatever, you just Cheesecake Factory, it wasn't even a conversation. It was not up for discussion. that was assumed we had to go there at least once on the way to and possibly on the way back as well.
Exactly. It wasn't if we're going, it's how many times are we going.
You order your Cheesecake Factory order is I want to say mac and cheese, but I should say child's mac and cheese.
Side order of mac and cheese.
Are you sure it's not child's mac and cheese?
I think it's a side order. Is it on the kids menu? No, I think it's a side order. No, it's a side order.
On the kids menu.
No, it's on the side order.
We're bearing the lead though, because you say you insist on it, and you say not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 shots of ketchup on the side. For your macaroni.
That's correct. I have no shame. I can admit it. I'm an open book here. First of all, why can't Cheesecake Factory? You're not that elegant. I love you. You're the best restaurant in the world for me. But we can have the ketchup on the table. It's perfectly fine. But you don't need to bring me these little. What is this? A shot glass of ketchup? Yes, I'm a ketchup with my mac and cheese guy. I'm sorry. Maybe I never grew up. But yeah, I need 4 of them. I need 4 of them, and I don't want to wait for them when my food comes. I might not look like I'm a foodie, but I am. I want to mash when that food comes, so I don't want to wait. So I will pre-order my 4 shots of ketchup.
And they never bring you 4. They always bring you like 2, maybe 3 sometimes. You're always
it's rare that I get 4, yes. But yeah, there's a reason why I order 4, because I know I've been here, I've done this. I know exactly how much I want and how much I'm going to eat.
This is not your first time. This is not your first rodeo. It's funny. I had Laffy on, a DFS guy, Laffy, not too long ago, and he was talking about he likes ketchup in his scrambled eggs. Are you also on that team?
Yeah, ketchup and eggs. I'm okay with that. I mean, I don't really eat scrambled eggs that often, but yeah, I would throw some ketchup on. I mean, ketchup can go with anything, but outside of fries, mac and cheese, and eggs, I don't really use ketchup, to be honest. I eat fairly clean for the most part, but yeah, I'm surprised. We've talked about this before on our show, and I thought more people would do the mac and cheese thing, but a lot of people just called me a child and said that was weird. So I actually lost out on the whole. I don't think it's that unusual. I think maybe half guys would use ketchup, and I was wrong on that. So I know that I'm in the 10th percentile when it comes to being a grown adult having ketchup and mac and cheese. Now, the other reason for mac and cheese is it's not that big, it's delicious, and it leaves me plenty of room for my massive pieces of cheesecake, which is the whole point of being there. That's why I'm not ordering steak or ribs or anything. It's too heavy. I can't eat the cheesecake. So that's why it's the side order of mac and cheese, or maybe it is on the kids menu. I don't know. If I had to guess, Dean, I actually think it's a side order. I don't think it's a kids menu thing, but if it's kids menu, I'm perfectly fine with that. I don't care.
Give me the power rankings, Pepsi. Give me your top 3 cheesecake flavors at the Cheesecake Factory.
Ooh, do you think you can do it for me? We've been together quite a few times. Let me see if you can do my top 3.
I think you like some sort of caramel concoction, maybe like a turtle?
Salted caramel, number 1, yeah.
Okay. Is there like a pecan thing you like? Or am I wrong on that?
Yeah, I think you're wrong on that one. I think
Oreo.
Yeah, Oreo is number 3 probably. It's I'm not an Oreo guy in general. It's awesome. So Oreo's 2 or 3 for sure. And then I love the am I drawing a blank now? Carrot cake cheesecake. I love
that. Oh, sure.
That's probably my top 3. Yeah.
And we have to there's discussions for this because we're going to share them. And you're like, okay, which one are you going to order? And you counter the order. There's a strategy. You don't just order cheesecake.
Absolutely. I mean, if it's you and I, as you know, but usually sometimes Sean comes with us or whoever we have with us. And Dean and I meet in any American city, Canadian city, now that we have Cheesecake Factory, of course, but we just got it recently. It was always American cities only. And if you met with multiple people, you had to discuss what you're having, and I'll share a little bit. Like last time, producer Simon and you and I went to one in Nashville, and we all had the discussion. Okay, let's order 4 pieces. We'll get 4 different ones. We'll all split them. So not only do you get to have 2 or 3 of your favorites, like a half a piece, you also get to try new ones all the time. So at some point, you've tried all 30 pieces or whatever.
Pepsi, I've kept you super, super long. Probably the longest I've kept anybody. I think you might have the record now. But I do have one more question for you before you step aside. We let you go, and hopefully we see you again on the RG streets. I'm hoping so. I would love to have you pumping out some content. If nothing else, hey, we're going to be looking out for your charity work, and I want to help that. I want to support that as much as I can as well too. But one last question for you, Pepsi. Have you wore the Tommy John underwear yet?
Dude.
Let's put some context to this.
Do people actually know? You want me to tell the story?
Tell the story, sure. Why not?
All right. So Dean is infatuated with Tommy John underwear. Now I'm a big fan of quality and on comfort. And once I started actually having some money, I was able to buy things that actually felt nice as opposed to what's on sale. So that was good. So I'm a big fan of quality over quantity now. So he keeps going on and on and on about these underwear being the most comfortable underwear ever. I like my underwear. I'm fine. I'm a boxer, or sorry, a brief guy. Tidy whities at one point, even, to be honest. Maybe that's too much information. Sorry.
Anyway, white over here.
So he finds these briefs, Tommy John. He's like, you got to order these underwear. I think you're visiting me in Canada at this point, and you're actually online going, here's the ones I have. Here's the site. You got to order these. So I'm checking them out going, well, I don't really have like awesome underwear. I never really thought about that, right? So I checked them out, and I think they're $30 or $35 a pair. And I'm like, dude, for a pair of underwear, I get like 6 for like $10 at Walmart, you know? But I'm like, okay. I started buying Under Armour quality stuff for bumming around in and expensive stuff. I thought, okay, if it's that comfortable, and Dean swears by it, it's all he'll wear. Fair enough. I trust Dean. So I order a pair. I think they're $40. What I didn't realize at the time was they're American. So 40 was like $700. I think it was like 55. And then, of course, there's tax and then shipping and handling. So I look at my credit card after I order this, which I should have been paying attention to, and it's like $73 Canadian to pay the tax and shipping. I'm like, I ordered one pair of underwear for $73. Hold on, it gets worse. They arrive at my door. I'm not home. My mother answers. They're delivering the package, but there's customs or fees of some sort that also happen.
Yeah.
Dean and I are in Niagara Falls at the time for the weekend. So my mother pays for the fees because she just assumes I ordered something from the U.S. She pays for it for me on my credit card, of course. And that was another $20. So I come back home and she says, your package arrived. I paid your fees, $93 for a pair of Tommy John underwear. 93 Canadian dollars. Ridiculous. All his fault. And of course, then he says, you got to wear them. They're comfortable. I said, no, I can't. If I wear these and I want to buy more of them, I can't have one pair. You got to have 6, 8, 10, right? I'm like, I can't spend $1,000 on underwear. I don't care how much money I have. I am never doing this. So I refused to wear them because I knew Dean was probably right. I'm going to fall in love with these. I ended up buying more. And I'm just like, I can't spend this money on underwear. So I have never worn the Tommy John underwear. They still sit in my drawer. I can't throw them out.
It's just, well, you can't throw it out either.
Yeah, they're $93, so they just sit in the bottom of my underwear pile, and that's where they are. Thanks.
They're below all the tidy whities. And if you like it, you're screwed. And now you'd rather just like eat the $93.
If I'd have known, I should never let you talk me into it when I saw $35.
Well, the thing is, you didn't want to buy more than one because you're like, I don't want to invest too much in it because what if I don't like it? So I'm going to try one. Right. But then you didn't do the math. You know, obviously shipping. I imagine if you ship 5 or 6, it's less per when it comes to shipping.
I feel like maybe I let you do the order and I gave you my credit card, perhaps.
That's possible.
Which is why maybe I wasn't really like, I'm not the guy that just buys things and doesn't worry about price. So maybe you were doing it for me and I saw the original price and I gave you my card and I didn't realize it was American and the shipping and handling and all that stuff and taxes, and you just pushed it all through and didn't care, I guess.
Hey,
that's
whatever, man.
Flip it out for me.
You got to be. I'm here for your comfort, you know. And I got no kickback for the record. I don't own stock in the company. I didn't use a promo code. I just want my friends to be comfortable. That's all.
I did get some revenge years later, though. A couple years later. You remember?
How so?
Well, I found these underwear in Canada in Walmart that I loved. And I loved them. And then you couldn't find them in Canada for many months. And I thought, well, 6 is not enough. I'm going to the gym. I'm playing sports. You're going through underwear, right? So I find them on Walmart.com, but I can't order them to me. So I said to Dean, can I order some underwear to you in Nashville and have you ship them to me? I'll cover the shipping fees. I can't find these underwear. And of course, I ordered like 4 packs for like $30. They weren't that expensive.
Yeah.
And I refused to ever pay you back, I think. Although you do owe me like $500 still from Niagara Falls. So.
From Niagara Falls. Unbelievable. Yeah, send me the debits and credits on that.
You didn't pay for dinners and taxis and things like that. So
I forgot. Yeah, because you don't drink alcohol and I had a beer or two and all of a sudden like I'm taking advantage of you because we split it 50-50 or how that works. But now we're just like an old married couple fighting on a podcast, Pepsi. It was a lot of fun. I thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. Hopefully the people out there enjoyed it as well. And a lot of the old school people, obviously know you from years ago, but also not too long ago in baseball, and hopefully Pepsi. Hopefully, hopefully we see you doing some content going forward. I thank you for coming on. Anything else you want to say? Anything else you want to share with the people before we step aside and get out of here?
No, I'm good. I had fun coming on here. It was nice to be back and talking to producer D-Train there, one of my favorite dudes too. I didn't mention him in the whole DFS realm because I guess he's not a DFS guy. Him and Simon producing the shows are always great to work with. And yeah, had a good time in here, and who knows what the future is. But I appreciate you guys having me on. And anybody that's listening, I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think Devin just woke up. He heard his name. He fell asleep at like the 1 hour and 12 minute mark.
He's like, really, Pepsi, 90 minutes or whatever this has been? Are you kidding me, dude?
I thank Devin as well for putting up my nonsense and putting up with the show for going too long. His I don't know, his vegetable burger is getting cold or something. But Pepsi, I much appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on. I look forward to your next tweet. I'm going to tweet about this tomorrow. Maybe you'll retweet it. I don't know. We shall see.
Yeah.
For fun, what is your Twitter, just in case people care if they want to look for it?
Oh, good question.
I have it in front of me if you really need me to.
DFS7? Pepsi DFS? Pepsi7 DFS?
It's Pepsi7 DFS.
There you go.
He's Chris Lowery, better known as Pepsi7. I was Dean. This was the Morning Grind. Thanks, everybody. If you stuck around this long, we're out of here. Holler!